He's a great kid. He's got a great smile. Everybody has become familiar with it. Just remember that. Keep it in your head.
It's been 2 heartbreaking months since a 7-year-old went missing.
What do you miss most about seeing him as a mother and father? What do you think about?
Is a very affectionate kid. He has been since he was a baby. Just the random hugs and the sounds and he has a short hair. I always run my fingers through his hair.
He helps me shave my head and likes to rub my head for the 3 or 4 days while it's still short. Going out and feeding the cat together. Our morning walks down to the bus.
Hello, everybody. Good to see you guys. How is your mic doing now, Kalia?
Can you hear me? Let's see.
I can hear you.
Okay. Whew. Ah, man, I swear, for the first live back in a while, it's like Murphy's Law. What can go wrong will. You were a lot more prepared than me. You got to have a practice run. And my stuff wasn't working.
Yeah, I did a practice run on everything just to make sure everything was good and a go. Hello, everybody. Today is July 29th, 2024. I'm Samantha. My partner is Kalia. We are back after a long month of being gone. You know, I thought it was like, I don't know. I kept saying 6, 7, 8 weeks, and I looked today, and it's only been a month.
Yes, it has been about a month. I did know it was about a month, but if it just feels like a long time after going pretty much weekly for the last almost year.
Right?
You know.
Hello, Connie. It's good to see you, sweetheart. So good to see you here. I am so glad to be here, to be live. Hello, AV, my girlfriend. Good to see you here. Thank you, mods, for being here.
Yeah,
We
thanks for
appreciate
joining
you
us.
guys for helping us watch the chat. I know Connie and I have been talking back and forth, and she has been talking about how much she's missed us. And she said that this last month was a long month for her because she missed us. So it's such a sweet gal right there.
That's sweet. We've missed being with you guys also. You know, we've talked about it, and when Samantha called me and was like, okay, I think I'm ready to do this, like, let's fit it in. And we normally, or like we used to do our lives on Thursdays. We're just doing it tonight on a random Monday because it's the middle of summer, you know? And by the way, that's part of the reason why we've been gone. So thank you so much for having some patience with us, as I'm sure a lot of our viewers are also in the thick of summer, enjoying their time with their families and their loved ones, or enjoying their hobbies, things like that. Because I know I'm doing all of the above. Yeah, it's been a fun summer so
Yeah, I
far.
love it. You got 2 boys at home off of school and home,
Yes.
and you've started your new amazing job. And
Yes.
me and my old man, we have just been trying to live it up as much as possible already this summer. We've gone crabbing. We've gone up to my daughter's. Actually, we've been crabbing a few times, and yeah, just enjoying the Pacific Northwest when you can, because we all know Pacific Northwest, if you got the sunny days, get out, go swimming, do what you're going to go do, because it doesn't last very long. Me and Kaylee were talking earlier, like, we cannot believe it is about to be August. This summer has just flown by.
It really has. It's crazy to think my youngest is going to start kindergarten in the fall. So I really am just trying to like, treasure every moment, because it has definitely gone in the blink of an eye. And a day like today where it is drizzly out, it just makes me really, really like, slow down, slow down.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
not
not time
ready.
for fall yet. Don't come. Although I am looking forward to the beginning of fall, because salmon season is almost upon us, and I am getting super friggin' excited.
Yes, that'll be fun. I've never been, and it will be awesome to like see your pictures and like live vicariously through you.
Oh
and
my
hear
gosh, you
about your
guys are more
guys'
than welcome to
success.
come down and meet us down there and come check it out for a day or something. The water stays super low there on the Columbia River. It doesn't get deep real fast, so the boys could like play up along
Oh,
the
that'd be
shore
fun.
and stuff. It's really nice.
That's cool.
But yeah, so tonight's live is about Kaine Horman. Um, Beyond the Silence, Kaine's unwavering faith, his story of love, loss, and betrayal, which I'm sure everybody can kind of put together the love, loss, and betrayal part. You know, Kaine Horman has been under scrutiny by the public for 14 years since his sons disappeared for basically making bad choices in his life, um, cheating on Desiree, his ex wife, and Kyron's mother, and of course, getting together with Terri Horman or Terri Moulton, because
Hmm.
everybody believes that Terri is responsible for Kyron's disappearance. She has been the focus, of law enforcement for 14 years. But the one thing is how could Kaine know that Terri, the woman that he loved, the woman that he married, the woman that he had a little girl with, would be capable of such a horrific crime like taking a child
Right.
or
Exactly.
murder for hire plots or all of the other things that she's done, stealing the car, driving drunk with her son James in the car when he was 11 years old, or like there's just so many things. And like, how did he know? And the honest answer to that is he didn't know. He didn't truly know who Terri really was. He had
Hmm.
no clue. And then
I mean, there's a literal show out there that I'm sure many of us have heard of. I think it's called something like Who the F Did I Marry? And it's a show all about people who were spouses of these heinous criminals or murderers or serial killers. Sorry, YouTube, I have to get in the hang of things again. Bleep, bleep, bleeps.
right.
But it's the same circumstance. You think you know your spouse, and honestly, if you love your spouse, then you try to work it out, and especially when you have a family together, right? So again, I completely agree. Yeah, it's just hard to put any blame on him when he doesn't have a crystal ball. He doesn't have like magical powers to see that Terry was going to do something like this, allegedly.
Right. And then on top of all of that, rumors are spread about Kaine. People have come out and said that he had some kind of involvement in Kyron's disappearance, or that he was into a steroid ring that was going on, and that's the reason why Kyron was taken, was because of these people he was supposed to be in on this, steroid ring. But that was a rumor by Blink on Crime, a blogger. I've even heard things like he shaves his head because he likes to wear wigs and dress in drag. And I mean, it goes on and on and on. And I mean,
It's
even the
just,
rumors that he took Kyron from Desiree. Desiree doesn't put blame on Kaine. She has said that several times. And from my understanding, when she came back from Canada, they agreed that he was doing well and they agreed to let him stay with Kaine. So, and then that's my understanding. I have heard other things, but that's my understanding of it.
mhm.
So, it's just
It's
crazy.
yeah, it's the way it worked out. They were a completely normal family, a completely normal blended family. He had a mom, a dad, a stepmom, and a stepdad, and step siblings and half siblings, and just like millions of other people in America. There was no writing on the wall. And yeah, I think a lot of those rumors are just hurtful distractions. They're,
Mhm.
I mean, even if they were even true, like so many of the other stupid rumors in Kyron's case, even if they were true, they have absolutely nothing to do with Kyron's disappearance, and it's none of our business. Like,
Exactly.
I mean,
People make mistakes.
yeah.
We've all made mistakes. Kaine made a few mistakes. And he's talked about the guilt that he had, after Kyron came up missing.
Mhm.
I mean, Kaine's lost so much. He lost Kyron, he lost his stepson James, and he lost his wife. I mean, they were together for 7 years. Could you imagine finding out that your wife had lost her mind, had possibly taken Kyron, set up murder for hire plots, did sexting with your longtime friend? I mean, and believing your daughter could have also been the victim or seen something on June 4th, 2010, the day that Kyron came up missing.
Mhm.
Or even trying to explain to a 2-year-old where her brother is for
Where
years.
yeah, where any of her family is really, because it's not just Terri. Like the fracture that this caused is, is it's something that, is felt. I can only imagine. So anyway, yeah, I don't I'm sorry, I don't like to get all like emotional about it, but that's the reality. Is like I don't like to sugarcoat it like this. When we're talking about Kaine, we're talking about a real person and who has people in his life that care about him, who has a daughter who's still under the age of 18, who these ripples go far.
It goes so far. And I mean, to have to deal with everything surrounding him. I mean, we get people in our group all of the time that constantly say, he should have just let Kyron go stay with his mom. Well, here's the thing. I went through a custody battle with my oldest daughter's father. There were many times she wanted to go stay with her dad. He wanted her. When you win a custody battle and you have custody of the child, how many parents do you guys know that just say, okay, here you go. I'm just going to give up. I'm not going to raise my son anymore, even after fighting for them or whatever you did, you know, during that custody battle, you're just going to straight up give up and just say, okay, here, I don't know. To me,
Yep.
it doesn't make a lot of sense to say that because I don't honestly think that there's a lot of people out there that would just give up their son. I mean, things were only going bad like the last year before Kyron came up missing. We already know by the way the summer is passing by how fast a year would actually go by.
Right.
Problems are coming up. He's already seeing the problems. He's trying to fix the problems. He's doing everything he can, because he also says Terri was suffering from postpartum depression and everything was acting a little crazy after the baby was born. And women go through that all the time. And I am by all means not sticking up for Terri, but I'm just saying he did what he needed to do as a father, as a husband, to try working it out and everything else. But before Kyron came up missing, it was on the path of divorce. He was leaving her. He was going to get his kids out of the situation and move on. And I think that has a lot to do with the reason why Terri turned into this whatever person. You know what I mean?
Mhm. Yeah.
So I want to play just a recap of Kyron's case. I found a really good video that I like. I'm going to throw it up and give everybody a little recap in case you're not familiar with Kyron's case. He became the focus so damn fast. So damn fast. And of no fault but her own. Of her own. But
Yeah, we say that all the time. Like the evidence just led to her, because when you commit a crime like this, there's no wiping your trail completely clean.
right? I mean, wow. And Kaine was actually on the Nancy Grace show recently. I think it was like 12 days ago, 11, 12 days ago. He was very vague and he didn't mention Terri really. And like in a way that he's always done before in the past. And if you ask yourself why, like, why give Terri that power, right? Why give her the power? Why give her any attention. I honestly feel like Terri loves the attention. I think that she feels like she's just gotten away with something, and she's just gotten to the point where gloating is her thing. She's not gloating about what she did, but it's always like a neener to Desiree or a neener to Kaine constantly.
Right. At first, she held the power by not talking, and then now she holds the power by kind of taunting them by putting on that facade that she was this perfect parent, and she's even allegedly lied about what's going on behind pictures, and Desiree has called her out for lying about pictures, and she goes on and creates this story saying, oh, Kyron was XYZ in this picture, and Desiree's been like, no, that's not true, because look at his smile, XYZ. And so yeah, I totally agree. So we were talking about that earlier too, not addressing Terri and not giving her the power and the attention that she wants. That's perfectly fine in my opinion. You know what I mean? That's understandable completely.
And it's not the first time he's done it. Like, he's literally, and we'll get to these videos later, where he just says he doesn't want to talk about her. I don't want to talk about Terri. It's not about Terri. It's about Kyron. And on the Nancy Grace show, I was disappointed. My admins were disappointed. Like, Nancy's experts did not do a very good job on any of the subjects that they were given. I'm assuming by Nancy to like look into the case. So instead of spreading more misinformation and showing all of Nancy Grace videos, we took a bunch of clips from the Nancy's questions to Kaine and put them all in small clips to like go over the interview with him and save us some time. And, so we're not wasting our time even talking about it or correcting her information. And then that way we have a lot more clips too to go over some more information, because what we're trying to show now after this Nancy Grace show, that he does believe that Terri is responsible for his son's disappearance. He's also said many times that he believes other people are involved. He's never come right out and said, but him and Desiree did go on a live and directly spoke to Dee Dee Spicer. So, just going to throw that out there, throw a bunch of clips out there, show you guys how many multiple times he has said and spoken about her being responsible and how he feels like, the guilt that he feels. And the next clip I'm about to show you, he has words for anybody in the public that wants to blame him for Kyron's disappearance. It's actually a clip I've never seen, and if I did, I forgot that I had seen it. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and throw this up.
Like I said, if it makes people feel better so that they'll keep looking for him, that's fine. Put the blame here, and then please go back out and let's keep looking for him and bring him home.
New candid words from Kyron Horman's father about those who want to hold him responsible for what happened to the 8-year-old. He sat down for a one-on-one interview addressing, among many issues, the recent friction between himself and Kyron's mother, Desiree Young.
On your side, investigator Anna Canzano joins us. And Anna, Kaine Horman says he no longer feels responsible for what happened to Kyron?
He acknowledges that 4 months ago he did, but after working with a therapist and family and friends, he's come to realize they just didn't stand a chance against this circumstance.
Despite what Desiree Young says about Terri Horman hating Kyron, Kaine Horman now believes there was no way to know his son would disappear, and nothing he and others close to Kyron could have done to prevent it.
We're dealing with someone who I referred to earlier as a professional at misdirection and deceit. That's exactly what she's all about. And sitting here and trying to blame an individual for that, aside from the individual who carried out whatever happened to Kyron that day, it's unnecessary. It doesn't need to be done. But I understand that if it helps people put blame on me for this, then go right ahead. If it makes you feel better, as long as you get right back out and start looking for them, then that's fine. But I don't hold myself responsible, and I'm not going to hold myself hostage for this event that happened to him.
He's also downplaying the apparent fracture between himself and Desiree Young. Earlier this week, she accused him of withholding information about what was happening at home between Terri and their son.
I know that she's extremely upset, and I don't know that it's necessarily at me or at anyone else in particular. We're all having a hard time with this. And I'm just chalking it up to, it's just one of those really difficult times that we're going through right now. It's, getting close to the holidays. We're all really emotional about this. And, as far as how our relationship's doing, it's fine. We haven't spoken for a little bit longer than normal, but that'll be rectified here shortly with the holidays coming up and kind of getting past some things. I'm not worried about it at all.
On a day-to-day basis, Kaine says the toughest part of his day is hearing Kyron's school bus come up and down the hill. It serves as a daily reminder of his son's absence. It's been 5.5 months since Kyron disappeared from his school in Northwest Portland. Anna Canzano, K2 News.
I mean, he says it right there. Like, if you need to blame somebody, go ahead, blame me. If you feel like I'm responsible, for whatever choices that he made or whatever, go ahead, blame me, but then get right back out there and go find my son. And I am so glad that I found that video. I can't wait to post it up in our group. I don't think a lot of people have seen that, because if you were put in his position and you were being ridiculed and stuff by the public, I mean, I would feel the same way. Like, okay, blame me, but move on. Like, just move on from me. He didn't have anything to do with his son's disappearance. He had no involvement in that. He couldn't have known in any way, shape, or form that Terri was even capable of that. And all he has done is look for his son right along with Desiree. I mean, that's what they've said over and over again. We will never stop searching. We'll never stop looking until he's found, until there's a resolution.
Yep. I agree with you completely. It sounds like, he even mentions his therapist helped him through some things. But I know any one of us would carry guilt. I know many of us have seen the Dr. Phil episode where Kyron's parents went on there, and even Desiree goes, we failed him. And it's not because, Terri, because you married Terri, that's why. That's not why. It's just that deep parental, that, man, I'm supposed to protect you and something bad happened, even if it's out of your control. I know I would feel the same way if I were in their shoes. So I can't judge them, either one of them.
Yep, exactly.
I will say that this reporter, Anna Canzano, she is just right up there with Kyle Eboshi with Kyron Horman reporting. She's been reporting like on a one-on-one basis with Kaine in particular. She has it seems like they've developed a close, journalist relationship, because she's done a lot of reporting and interviews with Kaine on a one-on-one basis. But yeah, she's kind of like I'm sure some people have read her name, but you hear Kyle Eboshi a lot out there. I just wanted to shout her out too, because she's been a reporter on this, a close one from day one.
Very good. Thank you for bringing that up, because it is true. She has been there from the beginning. Is she part of KGW?
I think she was K2 News, but she now does her own thing. She has her own show, but it's not news. I think it might be more entertainment based. But yeah, she still has her same Facebook page, so you can go and poke around on there and find a lot of her old posts and articles.
There is more to this clip with some other information on it, and as soon as this clip's done, we're going to jump into the Nancy Grace. Whoops. I didn't want to take it off. I wanted to play it.
It's such, I don't even know how to describe it. It's just it's a tragic case. It's senseless. It's tragic. cowardly. I mean, there's just so many things I would use to describe harming a child.
What Kaine has to say about Terri?
Nothing. Or I would, even if I could, I would choose not to. This is about Kyron. It's not about her. Whatever justice comes about as a result of this case, it'll work its course, find its day, and.
Yeah, and in that interview, he says harming a child. So it makes your mind wander a little bit. What does he know? What has law enforcement told him? Because we've spoken about this before, but I want to remind everybody, Kaine is a victim also in Kyron's disappearance because of the murder for hire plot. It has been combined all together as one large case. At least that's what me and Kaylia think. And we have seen in court documents that he has been named a victim. And we also know that because he's a victim in the case, he is privy to more information in Kyron's case than any normal parent would be for their child that was missing. So he's getting extra privileged information, if that makes sense.
Yeah. You've heard him reference being briefed by law enforcement several times. So it is I mean, the DA is the one that wrote in his own sworn affidavit that Kaine gets this information and this special classification. So it's right from the DA himself.
Yeah, and like we were just saying earlier on the Nancy Grace show, he doesn't really go into any detail or talk bad about Terri really in any way or anything. And of course, we've got our Terri supporters out there using all of this as such an excuse. See, he didn't even talk about Terri. He didn't badmouth her. He doesn't think she did anything. And then there's a lot of other subjects that we'll get into later that they're using. But you know, you hear him right there in the end of that interview say, like, I'm not going to talk about her. It's about Kyron. It's not about her. You know, I choose not to talk about her. And I think that's what he did during that Nancy Grace interview, besides the fact that her questions weren't really that great. Every single one of them really revolved around the trip on the way to the school, what happened when you got to the school that morning, if anything was unusual and stuff like that. It was all geared towards that morning. We know what happened that morning. What we don't know is what happened when she left with Kyron. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was a little aggravating almost. So.
Like, yeah, I know if her researcher would have, I mean, I was like impressed with some of the information that the researcher had, but not all of it. It was actually like, if that researcher would have, I don't know when this was recorded. Sorry guys, my brain is jumping. ADHD brain. I've been up since 4 a.m. But if it was recorded very recently, then I wish that researcher would have watched the interview with Desiree that she did in May and gotten some information from there, some of that new information, like the burner phones and the incriminating evidence and Dee Dee's involvement and things like that. I totally agree that she wasted a really good opportunity to talk with Kaine, but also we don't know if Kaine's, like, you know, he agreed to this under the circumstances of don't ask me anything except XYZ.
Right. Or maybe he was told by his attorney, don't talk about that right now, or something like that. You know, there could be reasons and there could not be reasons why he didn't say anything. But I mean, they got the time of the science fair wrong. They used Terry's words and they twisted them around to make it almost sound like she admitted to taking Kyron, when in all actuality, she admitted to getting revenge on Kaine by sexting his friend. And they just took that really short clip. Oh, look right here, you know, looks like she's admitting to taking, and it was just like, what? No, hello, you got it all wrong. And I don't even like having to stick up for Terri, but like they totally took her words and twisted them around. And it just was really upsetting because I love Nancy Grace. I watch her shows all the time. I click on her YouTube channel and watch stuff all the time. But now I'm going to be second guessing the information that I'm receiving because of all the misinformation that was given in that clip.
Right. I will say, I don't think it did, I didn't get the vibe that it was recorded at the same time where the researcher was live and these other panel guests were live with Kaine, because there were certain times where I feel like they covered something, or like, I mean, if Samantha and I were there on panel, we'd be like, no, that's not right. But Kaine doesn't say anything.
Right.
And it makes me think, well, he's probably not even actually there, or you know what I mean? Like, he probably had this like pre-recorded thing, but wasn't on a panel. I don't know. I can only imagine.
Show a panel of like his picture with everybody else that was there and supposed to be on panel, but I do see what you're saying. I mean, yeah, don't know how Nancy Grace does her lives, but
yeah.
I got more to this little clip right here, so we'll finish this one up. Let's see what this is. I've jumbled a whole bunch of stuff together, so here we go. Oh, and I'm removing it instead of pushing play again.
And so of all the people, you probably knew Terri the best. How would you describe her? I mean,
I thought I knew her the best. Apparently I didn't, based on all the information that's come out, things that she's done, the way that she operates. There's a lot I don't know.
Yeah. How would you describe her, though? Like, if I didn't know her at all, and I don't, how would you describe who she is as a person? Because, like, if you look at her Facebook photos, by all appearances, she's like this loving, devoted mother, loving wife, dedicated to family and whatnot. So.
And I think that's the image that she wanted me to see as well. Yeah. And that's the image that I saw. Much more so in the beginning, not so much towards the end. Yeah. But that's how she came across to me, at least for the first 4 or 5 years. Very, very loving, very focused on children, wanting to do the right thing. Yeah. And then it became much more about her, a lot more selfishness involved, how she was, I guess, apparently unhappy with our marriage, but yet not willing to work through it or talk to me about it.
What was she unhappy about?
I don't know. She wasn't talking to me about it. She was talking to other people about things that would happen and putting her spin on things, and trying, and I think in a lot of cases, trying to manipulate people to see a relationship that she felt was focused in a certain direction as opposed to maybe where it was really focused. I don't know. I wasn't the recipient of the communication. I'm only finding out about it after the fact. Right.
See, and that just tells you a lot right there. Like, she's just not the person that I thought that she was. And you're going to hear this repetitively, probably, in all of the different clips that we got. And he says it in either that way or a different way. But that's why we're doing the show. We want to show everybody how Kaine feels about the betrayal, about the deception, about the fact that he didn't know who he was married to. He didn't know she was capable of horrific things like taking his son.
Exactly. Yep. Master of deception. And, that's a lot of people were surprised and didn't see this coming from Terri, But
and we've called her the master manipulator from the beginning when you and I first got together. We've been able to piece that together quite well, that she's a very manipulative person and a very controlling person.
Yeah. Even just with her, the way she replies and talks to people and talks down to people and treats certain people who agree, or maybe not agree, but go along with what she says, and then other people who question it, and low-key threatening too. There's a lot of weird behavior that she puts out.
She does. I'm going to continue this clip real quick.
It's odd that, like, the 3 different scenarios that, Terri was enlisting the help of other people, the landscaper, Mike Cook, B.D. Spicer, all of these have sort of like sexual overtones, that was sort of the connection that she was drawing with these people to bring them in.
That's how she manipulates people.
One of the ways, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think based on where we've been over the last 3 months, I don't know how you can predict or guess at that. Anything's possible.
Yeah.
So I couldn't say no at this particular point in time because I've got no idea what else is coming.
Blindsided by...
Yeah, left and right, basically, constantly over the past 3 months. And we've all seen the different things that have come out about things that she's done or things that she's done in the past or what have you. And more of all it's mainly the recent stuff where something comes up and it continues to be unpredictable.
Yeah, 3 months into it, and they're just finding out so much. And he's literally saying right there, like, we have no clue what else is going to pop up because he didn't even think the things that have popped up would ever pop up. Like, how could you? And you and I have talked, God knows how many times, about her using her sexuality, as a tool to get what she wants.
Yeah. I mean, there's been several reports of it. If not outright sexuality, then at least like flirtatious, charming, you know, and if you look back on pictures of her, like, okay, I'm not going to say those bodybuilding pictures of her, but you know, regular pictures of her, she's not bad looking. So I could totally see how she could charm people. But then when you read the text messages between her and Michael, she's so cringy. It's like, how did anybody like sit there and think, oh my gosh, ooh la la? No, she's cringy AF. But hey, you know,
I think she's a beautiful person. When you found those pictures of her, like from in high school and stuff, and pictures that her
Yeah.
parents have on the wall, like she's a very beautiful person. But wait till you get to know her, because that will change real quick. You can know, because there's that personality thing. Like, you meet beautiful people every day, but when their personality is ugly, they're not that beautiful anymore. You know what I mean?
I will say, this last clip here that you played, he said something along like, it continues to be unpredictable. We don't know where it's going to be because the investigation just keeps unfolding, new information and new leads to pursue, and new, you know, I can only imagine. We've also, you know, go watch our live on Kyron's War Room to go over a lot of what's publicly available about this investigation. Without going into too much detail, my new job gives me a really great firsthand look at how investigations like this work, criminal investigations. And if I had any doubt before in Multnomah County Sheriff's Office, it's absolutely squashed completely now. And I just know that Kyron's case is in good hands, even if it's 14 years later. And yeah, I just know that.
We are so proud of you. We are so proud of you for getting a job and doing something that you love, that you're good at.
Thank you.
It's
Thank
awesome.
you.
I love it.
It's really awesome. And I know that Kyron's case, like Multnomah County, I can only imagine, you know, the thousands and thousands, probably hundreds of thousands of pages of evidence that they have, you know, and truly, they probably uncovered so many things farther than our wildest imagination.
Exactly. Yep. I believe it. I have felt from the very beginning that Multnomah County Sheriff's Office was the perfect office to have on Kyron's case. And I felt comfortable with that when I found out they were a search and rescue sheriff's office anyway.
Right.
Because not just any sheriff's office could have done that with the rainforest and all that thick forestry and you know, that area itself. Like, it would have taken a good sheriff's office to do it. I think they're perfect. I think they're perfect.
Yeah, right.
I am going to throw up my my little fair use video that's 9 seconds long before we get into Nancy Grace, because the next 20 minutes is it's not gonna, we're gonna be pausing throughout this 20-minute video, and we'll talk about each question that she asks him. But I want to play my fair use and give Nancy Grace all the credit for what we're about to show. I could have problems later down the road, but I don't care. And there we go, Nancy Grace. You know, I saw something, and Susie, our admin, actually brought something up, because the Oprah Winfrey clip that I took long time ago, somebody else used it on their YouTube channel, and it was taken down for violating whatever. And it's like, why would people like Nancy or Oprah, or, you know, in a missing child's case, be upset for somebody else using that information to bring awareness to a child? I don't think that makes sense.
I know Dr. Phil would take it down in a heartbeat too. And it's just, I think it's just the bottom line, you know, business is business. It's not personal. But what's the point of having a huge platform and if, you know, having these resources available and then not letting people get the message out. It's not like, I would agree if that was all the content that that creator made, is that it was only content that Oprah made and they never made their own content, or, you know,
Right.
like did what we do, put it together and research a topic and compile it all and show people for research purposes. That's different, you know? Yeah, I hope you don't have problems from Nancy Grace. We'll see. YouTube be
We'll
YouTube,
see.
though.
Because I have Nancy Grace, I have Oprah, the same clip I'm talking about. She's never, and it's still up on our channel, and Dr. Phil. So I'm sure I'm going to get it, but I'm going to spin my fair use and see how it goes. Let's throw up this Nancy Grace video, and we'll pause after the first question after he answers. By the way, his answers are kind of long-winded, so I apologize.
Could you go back to the day that when you learn Kyron has disappeared, just 7 years old at the time?
Yeah, I was at work that day and came home after. I was in the office and went to walk down to the bus stop that's down our driveway, and went down to meet him when he gets off the bus, something we do pretty much on every day. And the bus came down and the door opened, and the bus driver looked at us a little bit puzzled, and had mentioned that he was not on the bus, and that came as a shock. And we talked to her for a few minutes, at which time we ran back up to the house and got in the car and went up to the school to try to find out what was happening while we were making phone calls on the way. So it was a very shocking situation at that point in time. And then went to the school, talked to the teachers and faculty up there, placed the call to 911, and that's when the sheriff's office got involved and just kind of evolved from there.
You were walking down this exact way? Yeah, just right here. The bus just stops right there on the street.
On June 4th, 2010, Kaine Horman waited for his son to get off the school bus. But Kyron never made it, and he's been missing ever since. The second grader was last seen at Skyline School. Kaine believes Terri Horman is responsible for her stepson's disappearance, and he fears others may also be involved.
Somebody else is involved with his disappearance, and we need investigators to continue to focus on other avenues that might reveal who those person or persons are.
Police have taken in more than 4,000 tips and conducted countless searches, but so far nothing. That lack of evidence actually gives Kaine hope.
So you have to believe the more that those searches turn up nothing, the more likely he's got to be out there somewhere.
Yeah, and that's so, he's just describing like what happened that day. He walks down to the bus stop at 3:30 in the afternoon, goes to get Kyron off the bus. He's not there. He was just doing his normal work day, like the intro that I played earlier or the recap that I played. He was missing from 8:45 in the morning until 3:30 when law enforcement and everybody found out, well, not law enforcement, but when Kaine found out that he was missing. And during that Kyle Eboshi interview right there too, you hear him again, like we spoke about a while ago, that he believes that somebody else helped Terri. I believe that other person is Dee Spicer, and I've also heard many, many times that there could be a third person involved.
Yeah, I have speculated too, because when I found out that Terri was reaching out to other landscapers literally in April, end of April, 1 month before Kyron disappeared, it just makes me wonder the kind of people that she could have met, and used burner phones or anything like that. Who knows? I'm just speculating on my own wonder. But I think Kaine says it perfectly well here. I mean, I think that, yeah, putting pressure on Terri and Dee is important, but also he's exactly right. he knows that they're not going to give him the information that he wants and the information that's actually going to be valuable to finding Kyron and bringing him home. So he just finds it a waste of time.
Yeah. Search other avenues. So, get to know the people that know those people or something, because, I mean, have they really been quiet for 14 years and said nothing to nobody? I mean, most of the time you end up messing up because you're talking. Have they talked? Who knows? Let's go on to another question.
What was going through your mind? What happened on that trip back to the school?
Well, it was just a very, I don't know that I have a good description of it, very visceral. Panic, nothing, I mean, sheer panic. The one thing, or one of, it's one of the top things I think most parents fear is their children going missing. You want to protect them. You want to be able to know where they are at all times. And I was just panicked. It was just terror. I don't remember much else. I remember just, I think what I've, learned since then about trauma response, I think that it was in just full trauma mode at that point in time. Everything just looked different. The scenery looked different on the drive up there. Just everything racing through my mind of, all the different scenarios that could play out. But it was, honestly, it was terror. I couldn't even really explain the thoughts at that point. It was sheer panic.
Sure, panic. Exactly. I mean, I kind of thought that question was kind of just like, well, duh, how do you think that he felt? You know what I mean? I mean, I'm so sorry to put it that way, but the question almost answers itself. Like, he, of course, is going to be scared and frantic and panicked and, racing to get up there to go find out what's going on. I mean, there's got to be a million things rushing through your head when you find out that your son hasn't came off the bus.
I definitely agree with you. I feel like Nancy's interview with Kaine completely lacked empathy the entire time. There were several times where I cringed at Nancy's response and lack of empathy, relating what he's going through to herself. And she might feel like she can relate to Kaine on a certain level because of her own experiences, but based on what she was saying, they were on a completely different level. That was bizarre. The way the questions and her responses to things, it just was like, come on. His son has been missing for 14 years.
Yeah. Yeah, I felt the same way. She does that a lot in some of her interviews, mentions things going on in her own life. But yeah, I totally agree with you. The lack of empathy for sure.
How did you know? Here and here, in your head and your heart, when he did not get off that bus, when those doors swung open, how did you know instinctively something was very wrong?
Yeah, that's exactly how you describe it. The bus comes, he gets off every day. There's been a lot of discussion around whether or not he was at school still, or other things, and he just very routine, like you said. I don't know that we had a situation where he ever missed the bus up until then. I don't recall him being on the playground or in the classroom without us knowing about it. And I think that's the main thing. Is usually, I think in a lot of those circumstances, if there's something after school, you're usually notified. And the schools are usually really good about doing that. So it was just an immediate response that something's definitely off, because we either would have heard or he'd be stepping off those bus steps right now. So exactly what you described. It was pretty much like clockwork every day. And that was just the one day that it wasn't.
Yeah, like Lily is saying here, I agree. Nancy always talks over her guests and doesn't let them answer her questions fully. And, we kind of talked about that because she did that too. She would cut him off. I mean, he would, at one point in one of his questions, and he was answering and stuff, he was still talking and she interrupts him, and he was actually giving us some pretty good information at that point, even though he was vague during this. And I'm by all means not saying vague, like I'm upset with him whatsoever. I just think that this interview was awkward for him for some reason. He seems kind of awkward to me. But yeah, I mean, and there she is again. Like, how did you feel when the bus doors open and he's not there? And yeah, just like any parent would feel if your child was 30 minutes late from walking home from school, or you go to the bus stop and they're not there, and you call the school and he hasn't been there all day. Wow. You know what I mean? It's again, I think that the answer, realistically, the answer, everybody knows the answer.
Kaine, when you got to the school, what happened when you got there?
I remember trying to locate teachers. The three of us were up there. So we were trying to locate and ask questions about, where he was at, if he was still there, kind of the things that we just talked about. Just getting a rundown. And they had indicated that he was not there that day, that he had been absent from school from basically the beginning of the day, which then, was an additional shock.
Oh my stars, that just makes my stomach hurt. Your whole day, you're going about your business, you're working, you're this, you're that, you're making calls, you're sending emails. The whole time you think he's fine at school, and he was not there. He was not checked in.
Right. Yep.
I feel like the questions are very repetitive and close to being the same question.
Yeah. And that was a missed opportunity. Like, hello, why not just talk a little bit more about the doctor's appointment?
Oh my gosh, right?
Like, if she knew anything about the case, then that would have been the perfect opportunity to go talk about something. Instead, she just acts like she's never heard this information before. I mean,
I actually have a playlist of all of her old interviews from way back when this happened, and she knows the case quite well. And I think that's why I became a little bit disappointed in the interview, because I know, or at least thought I knew, that she knew this case.
Right. Strange.
And this is one of the clips where she interrupts him as he's like giving good information.
Right. It's weird.
How was that morning before he left for school? Was anything at all unusual?
No, not from my perspective. We had talked that morning before he went up to the school, and before I went to work. We talked outside. He came out with me to the car before I got in and left. I told him that I loved him, to have a wonderful day at the exposition, and that I would see him after work, and we'd talk all about it. So it was just another pretty much normal day.
Yeah, and Lily, she points out something else really, I guess when I said he was being awkward, I guess Lily's saying it more correct than I was, because he clams up is what it is. He clams up when she interrupts him.
Yeah, you can see the visual discomfort. He clams up.
Sorry, I was reading. If she was so...
My observation between Kaine, who we don't get to hear from very often, so it's very nice to hear from him on interviews like this, versus Terri. Terri has talked about the morning before as well. She's made comments on it in the last year, and she goes into extreme detail, right? Like, I feel like to, like, I don't know, make it, is that something liars do? Make up a ton of details to make people more attracted to believe you or something? But Kaine just gets right to the point. He doesn't mention the cat. And I feel like I've read Terri say Bootsy, our cat, who came with the house, like 1,000,000 times in her comments.
I actually have a clip. It's funny that you said that, because I actually have a clip of him talking about the cat, but it's in the sense of feeding the cat in the morning before he would walk Kyron
And
down to the
that was way back then. This is 14 years later. Kaine's not like talking about all these itty bitty little details, and that's the way Terri remembers these things. She's always long-winded and goes on and on. It's so weird.
Well, she's got to spin that narrative, right? She's got to
Yeah.
she's got to try to throw out all this false information so that people will believe the shit she's trying to spin. For sure. Hello, Sherry. Thank you for being here. It's nice to see you.
What's your understanding of his movements that morning?
Yeah, so based on what I understand, again, this is what I remember being told, that they arrived at the school, that they went to the classroom where his project was on display. That's the photo that we've all seen already with him standing in front. I did see that photo later that day on our camera as well. There was a couple other pictures of other things in the room from what I remember. So they did look at some other projects in the room, again, from what I recall. And then there was a description of them walking to other classrooms and looking at other projects in those rooms. I don't remember, I don't recall which teacher it was that they went into. I think they went into multiple rooms from what I remember and what I was told. And then there was a discussion about them parting ways up in the hall by the office. And he supposedly walked down the hall back towards his classroom, and she left the building. Again, according to what I was told, I don't know for a fact what happened, but that's what I remember as the kind of the described overview of what happened there. And again, I did see photos of the classroom and a few others, but that's what I remember.
Yeah, and in this question here, when she asked about it, I was just kind of shocked that he doesn't mention, like he's mentioned so many other times, about what she told him or how many different stories that she told about these last moments that he speaks about here. So I threw in we're going to show two different clips of what he has said in the past about the school and what they did that day. I'm going to throw up the Dr. Phil one first.
Day at the school and what she did at school that day, her accounts of it to me are completely different.
What did she tell you that is different? This is important.
My story from her was that they went up that main set of stairs by the office, and they parted ways right in front of the office.
And according to law enforcement, that was her second version when they also felt like it wasn't jiving with them. They countered her in the interview, and then that's when she said she went up the front staircase.
I mean, look how far he's going. He's not going that far. And even if they did split right there, you're going to tell me that he got picked up by a stranger in about 50 feet and willingly walked out the door with someone that he didn't know. Absolutely not. Not a chance.
And that hall would have been populated.
Oh,
yeah,
yes.
with tons of people that all know each other.
That all know each other, because we're talking a little bitty, tiny little school in a community of everybody knows everybody. We've all, seen and heard about these kinds of communities where everybody knows everybody. And yeah, they are saying right there is no way. And they're saying that her story changed. They're saying law enforcement was told different stories. And that's what I kind of like when he didn't speak about it like that. And he didn't mention the fact that she changed her story a little. I was just kind of wondering why. Was that just not him wanting to talk about Terri? I don't know. Hello, Kathy. Good to see you. Hello, Callie. Nice to see you too. And you guys have brought up some very valid points. Thank you guys for being here. We appreciate everybody coming in. Callie Dime says that unnecessary details are usually red flags. I believe that to be true. She is just trying to, Terry's really trying to just spin that narrative. Kathy says Terri is very detail oriented and in every answer or explanation she gives about June 4th up until she leaves the school. Yep. And that's a great point, Kathy, that you bring up, because it's so true. She, when law enforcement starts asking her questions about where she drove around that day, what she did that day, couldn't remember, really anything at all. And then, but she can remember like all of these other little details with everything else throughout the day and everything. So very good point. Again, thank you guys for coming. And then this is the other clip where he's also talking about the school.
What did stepmom Terri tell you?
Actually, it's not, but it will come. So let's finish this question.
Happened.
Yeah, so it was we talked about the going to the room at the school, doing the photos, walking around the different rooms. I do recall, after thinking about it a little bit more, I think it was his first grade teacher that they saw in his room. And one of the interesting things about the school is there is an upstairs and a downstairs with classrooms, which I guess I didn't mention before. So she had talked about starting in the upstairs rooms and touring the science projects in those rooms, then going downstairs and viewing the projects there. And then, it's been a while. My memory may not be what it used to be, but for some reason, I remember her talking about them separating and meeting, because there's different stairwells to go back up to the upper level, where they went back up to the upper level and met near the office. And that's where they parted. And she saw or talked about him walking down the hallway back to his class. I don't recall her saying she saw him doing that, but they met there and then separated at that point in the school. It's kind of the office is kind of a central spot in the upstairs. And then she went and did some of her daily things that she had on her list from the school. So that was the last time that she had said that she had saw him, was in that central meeting place by the office.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much to that. I mean, he's talking about having guilt. He's talking about the emotions that he has, having dreams about Kyron, and, the fact that he doesn't want to wake up, and explaining to his daughter where Kyron is. And then there you have it again, him speaking like on the Dr. Phil show about her changing her stories about which direction she took when leaving the school. And, it's not that hard of a question. How did you leave the school?
Yeah. Should have one clear answer.
Yeah, I mean, Kathy just brought up a great point while ago when she was saying she could remember everything else, and she goes on and on about all of these specifics, but she can't remember things after the school. Yeah, she doesn't want to give any specifics because those specifics are the ones that are going to get her in trouble, that could catch her in a lie of some sort or whatever. But I just wanted to throw those clips in there and show that he's answered this question before about what he was told happened, or what happened when she left the school, or how the events through that morning went. Those dreams sound familiar. I'm so sorry. Oh, I know it's a horrible thing. He's just been scrutinized so much for 14 years, and here lately he's been getting bashed a lot. I've been posting a lot of stuff in our group about Kaine lately, and I've been noticing him just like getting bashed so much. And then the Nancy Grace thing came out, so I was just kind of like, okay, well, we've done so many, all videos on just Kyron, on just Terri, on just Dee Dee, on just Desiree. Why not do a show on just Kaine, to show, how much faith, and we'll get into his faith and how he has spoken so many times about him not just hoping, but having a belief that his son is out there somewhere.
Yeah, that takes a strong faith, and it's something that he's held for a long time.
Yeah, it was actually towards the end of the Nancy Grace, he used the word "what if," or if you're still alive out there, or something like that. And it almost brought me to tears, because it's really the very, very first time I've ever heard him say "what if." He's always had that 100%, I believe you're out there.
Right. Yeah.
And I mean, what father or mother wouldn't want to think that way? You don't want to believe that your child's gone. Not until
Exactly.
there's proof.
Yeah, and even then, you still hope that, like, Desiree spoke about there's evidence on the burner phones that implied guilt. And even if you were to read that with your own eyes, you would still have this like inkling of like, but they couldn't do that. They couldn't really, and that's why, I don't blame any parent until they know for 100% certain, they find their child's remains, then I don't blame them for holding on to that hope for as long as it takes.
You would have to bring me proof.
Yeah.
I mean, you would have to bring me the proof 100% that my child was gone. I would never stop. Never. And I would always
Exactly.
keep that belief that, my child was out there somewhere until that proof was given to me.
Exactly.
And I think we speak for a lot of parents out there. I really do. Yeah. I mean, when you come to that point where you're no longer believing they're alive, you're almost even giving up that hope. When you give up that hope, you give up that search, you give up even trying to find them basically at that point.
That spark. Yeah. Yep. That's true.
What do you know about potential witnesses that say they observed her leaving with him?
Personally, I have no firsthand account of anybody having seen him in the parking lot or her or them leaving together. I've heard a lot of secondhand information that there's a number of different accounts. There's accounts of people seeing all three of them leaving because my daughter was with her as well. There's accounts of seeing him by himself in the parking lot getting into vehicles. I've heard different kinds of vehicles, not just a truck. And I've heard other accounts of people witnessing her leaving the school by herself. I haven't heard any directly, so it's all secondhand information. I apologize, but I don't have any firsthand witness accounts that have been dictated to me personally.
And Kaylee, we have talked about this. Would you mind answering this? All I have to say is law enforcement, of course, is going to find out more information later on, but I think you could describe what he's saying more about this secondhand information than I can.
Well, that's kind of what I'm wondering too. Secondhand.
I'm going to be right back, by the way. You're on your
Okay.
own for just a minute. Okay.
All right. Secondhand information, to me means that it was given to him by somebody else, not the original source of the information, which means, like technically in my opinion, every bit of information the police tell him is secondhand. But that's just my opinion. Unlike Desiree, and I don't know if this is just my personal thoughts on it. Is he talking about how Desiree has kind of developed a personal relationship with some of the people that were involved that morning? I know that some of the people that are said to have been the people that saw Kyron leaving with Terri that morning, they've shown up at vigils that Desiree has thrown. They publicly are supportive of Desiree on Facebook and stuff, like sharing her posts. And I think they would have had to give their blessings to be named in the book because Desiree just totally names them in the book. But yeah, I don't know if that's what he means, that these witnesses told Desiree themselves with their own mouths versus the police telling Kaine secondhand. I don't know. It is interesting to me that he says he's heard an array of information. And if he's talking about secondhand information, who would have been the bearer of this information if not police? Would it have been a private investigator? Would it have been like just random people coming up to him on, at his events and said, "Hey, I heard this"? I guess we can only really speculate. And I'm sorry, I don't have the chat available on my phone to really see. But that's just kind of what I'm thinking about that reply that he gave there. And again, a missed opportunity in my opinion, because I would have loved to been able to ask Kaine more information if he was willing to talk about it. A lot of people think that the nobody needs, we don't need to talk about or hear from the people that were there that morning. I personally think that, I mean, that's one route that has never happened. We've never had every person that was there that morning sit down for a dateline or for, Mr. Walsh and do an America's Most Wanted type thing. We've never had that kind of special, but how amazing would it be? No matter what they had to say, you never know what it could bring out.
Sorry, I missed all that. I had to take this phone call from my daughter. It was kind of important, so.
Y'all good?
Sorry about that.
Is she good to go?
Good. Yeah, everything was good.
Okay.
She knew I was live. I thought it was more, I'll just say, I thought it was more important than I thought. Or than it was.
Well, that's not a bad thing. That's good.
No, because we're sitting here talking about our children and what we would do for a child. And Mama Bear kind of kicked in like, okay, I got to find out what she needs real quick. So, but yeah, I mean, my take on just him talking about this secondhand information. I don't know if you brought up Terri's supporters trying to twist this around or not. Did you?
Not really. No, didn't go there too much.
I mean, and I'm even sorry that I'm even bringing it up, but they are literally taking this and spinning it, of course, because if you don't know the case, it does almost sound like, oh wow, there's other options here. Maybe she didn't leave with, or maybe he didn't leave with her to the truck. But like I said before I left, as the case moves forward, they find out things and everything else, and it is secondhand information to him because he is hearing it not from the horse's mouth that said anything, but from somewhere else. And then on another note, I thought it was very interesting, really, to hear that people had came forward and said they saw him alone or seen him get into other cars and stuff, because that's the kind of stuff law enforcement was dealing with at that time. And I'd never heard that before, that there were other witnesses saying other things.
Yeah, they had to sift through everything. I have said this so many times. I mean, I've shared it in our group. I watched this video about the JFK assassination, and this video on YouTube was in particular about the conflicting witness statements and how the FBI had to sort through these conflicting witness statements and how they did it and how there's science behind it and why the human brain does this and how witness statements can even be so conflicting. As an example, one person said, oh, when I heard the shot go off, I was in the stairwell and I immediately went down and ran out the front door. And when I ran out the front door, I saw this person standing there. And then when they go and talk to that person that they allegedly saw, that person says, when the shot went off, I was out back loading stuff. I was never in the lobby. Now they have to figure out, well, who is the more accurate witness? Whose memory is being accurate here? And they look at that by looking at the data that is available, because especially in 2010 versus the JFK assassination, every person has data, a digital footprint at all times, from their phone, their digital cameras, their watches, things like that.
Well,
their
and
cars.
Then you have one witness saying this and one person saying that and another one saying this. So maybe you have two people in the parking lot that say they saw Kyron leaving with stepmom, and only one person saying, hey, I saw him get into a car. Where even if you wouldn't even get into even bigger 4 or 5 people saying we saw him doing this, and only one person over here saying we saw him do that. And that's
Yeah.
where, they can also use those
To start
tips
narrowing it
coming
down.
in and conversations and writing things down exactly, and just putting the pieces together, because that's what it is. It's a big puzzle piece, and it's got to be solved. So
How many times, can I ask you, Kaine, did you go over it and over it and over it with stepmom Terri?
1,000, a million.
Many times, exhaustively. There was a lot of discussion that was occurring post the interaction with the folks at the school, and then with law enforcement, and it was pretty much a daily thing. Trying to walk through, who they saw, recount the steps, making sure that one of my biggest concerns was, did they actually meet up and part ways at the office? Didn't really ever get firsthand information that confirmed their parting at that location. So there was just a lot of conversation about trying to understand exactly what happened, where it happened, how it happened, and then including after as well. So there was a lot.
He has thought, they've talked multiple times, him and Desiree both, about how many times they talked to Terri and asked her what happened. And at one point, even, having her go into her room and talking to her to get her to take another polygraph test, like constant questions from Kaine, Desiree, I'm sure Tony, law enforcement, to get her to speak up and say. And I mean, that just screams red flags and guilt to me, because, we say it 1,000 times. Law enforcement's going to run down through the list of people. Everybody's got to say where they were, what they were doing, get checked off the list. And she never does that. She gives bits and pieces. So they're never able to check her off. And yet she still wants to blame law enforcement or Desiree for having instincts and thinking that she was responsible because of just the way she was acting in the very beginning. Or even Kaine and how he feels about it, even though he was given privileged information. I mean, nobody but Terri did this. She is the reason why she's the focus.
I like that Kaine even says post the interaction with the school employees, which to me, that interaction was memorable. If they show up there, right, and they say, "Where's Kyron?" and the teacher says, I thought he went with you to the doctor's appointment. And Kaine's like, "What doctor's appointment?"
Right.
And Terry's like, the one that's for next week. And Kaine's like, "What? Yes." And the whole thing would have been his red flags were probably up at that point.
Yeah.
Like, whoa. And he made a point right here to say, post the interaction with the school employees, that was memorable to him. From that moment on, he could never get a clear answer from Terri. He said it himself. It was exhaustive.
Good. Good. I am so glad you saw that. And I'm glad you explained it to me the way you just did, because that made me go, wow. And I love to go, wow, in Kyron's case, because I know a lot about it. So I don't get too wowed very often. You know what I mean? But good observation for sure. Like, yeah, post the talk. Wow. Okay. I won't wow no more.
The last thing I could have thought about is sending X-rated photos of myself to some guy. I mean, that's just not where your head is at a time like that.
My reaction, the first thing that I wanted to do was to cooperate with law enforcement as much as possible. And when I wasn't doing that, I was sitting in another room, staring at the floor and crying. For the first couple days, I think I slept for maybe 20 minutes the night that he went missing. We had a house full of law enforcement. One of the sheriff's officers that I had gotten to know over that period of time sat across from me in the room, and I think I might have nodded off for 20 minutes maybe. Everything was do everything possible as fast as possible, whatever we needed to do. And it was just being ready and available to go through the process that they conduct through the investigation as much as we could. And like I said, when I wasn't doing that, I was basically sitting there crying for the first, and that was the first few days. It was, the grief was overwhelming. And at the same time, like we talked about in the ride up to the school, my brain was just frantically trying to figure out, what could we possibly be doing? Is this real? It still just really hadn't sunk in all the way, but it had at the same time. I don't know if that makes any sense, but just mulling over everything. But yeah, I don't remember sleeping that much for the first week, if not longer. Because we were in the middle of the investigation. We were being investigated in all the interviews and everything else that we were trying to get through. I mean, I was not on social media at all that I recall. I don't even recall cracking a laptop. I don't remember being on my phone. I just remember working with the team as much as humanly possible to make progress on finding him. So the things that you're describing to me, completely foreign to me at that time, and still. Sorry, I don't know how else to answer. It was a very intense period of time. I have no idea how anyone would be in that mindset.
After I watched this, I told Kalia and I told Heidi, my admins, and I just am like, imagine your child is missing and you need to break down. Like, who wouldn't need to break down, right? So you go into the room to break down. But law enforcement are following these parents everywhere. He is breaking down in front of a stranger, in front of law enforcement. He says he's in there crying for days and days and days. And then the one thing that he says that it is so for real, he's asking himself, is this real? Is this real? Is this really happening? I mean, could you imagine putting all of those kinds of feelings out there in front of a stranger? I mean,
Right.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. Having to be vulnerable, and we can all tell how private of a person Kaine is. I mean, I feel like there's a reason he chose to go buy a property that had 5 acres plus way back when, and that's takes a certain type of person that doesn't want other people in his business.
And you don't see him emotional really in any of his
No.
interviews, but here you have him telling a very emotional time in his life, a very vulnerable, like you said, moments, days worth.
You know what? Can I just say something? I might be wrong, but I'm fairly certain when Dr. Phil called Terri out for this sexting thing, that she said that her and Kaine were sexually active during this time, up until he left her. Which, listen to Kaine describe how distraught he was, and
Right.
what he was. He couldn't even crack a laptop. That was the furthest thing from his mind, but he's somehow sleeping with the person that can't even give him a clear answer of what happened the day his son disappeared.
Oh, come on.
Yes, come on.
That is her purely deflecting at the fact that she can be sexting and on the phone doing all of this crazy stuff, doing all of this while her stepson's missing. For real. Total deflection. She wants everybody else to believe that he was also sexually active, that he was also, I call BS. Great point.
I do
and
too.
It's right. Yeah. It fits right in here with this whole like sexting thing, because who in their right mind would be sexting somebody while their stepson's missing?
Some people have questioned why the sexting is even important, and even Terri's attorneys at the time accused Kaine's attorney and Kaine of creating a public witch hunt against Terri, and that was their reason why they released these text messages. But when you read, they actually explain why they released these text messages in the court. They used them as evidence, so they're public record, and the media is all over anything public record in Kyron's case. And B, they were demonstrating where Terri's headspace was. They had like 15 pages of text messages. And like I said, yeah, they're sexting, but they're cringy as all get out. And that she's talking about other stuff too. And that's, they said, hey, they were trying to demonstrate where her mental headspace was and why she shouldn't be allowed to see Kyron's little sister. If this is what she's doing when Kyron's missing, and this is the things that she's blatantly texting about, then is she in the right headspace?
Exactly. Yeah, and I mean, like we mentioned earlier, you know, he lost Kyron, he lost James, his stepson, he loses his wife. He gets hit in the head with the whole fact that she's even sexting another man who just so happens to be his long, you know, long life friend and the long friendship. So I mean, like, he's betrayed by two people right there. And you know, and then on top of all of this, right, you know, around the same time, he's finding out that she's tried to hurt him. Not one time, but multiple times later down the road as it comes out. Like, how devastating to him to be finding out all of the stuff, to be finding out who his wife really was. I mean, it's just, oh, when we say that there are layers in this case, there's layers to just Kaine's feelings alone and what he went through. Layers and layers and layers of it. And 28 days.
Also,
actually 26 days.
While we're on this topic, this just popped in my brain. Not only was she sexting this dude, his old friend, but she was sexting the landscaper that she tried to get to unalive Kaine. Like we said earlier, that's one of the ways that she tries to manipulate people, is using her sexuality or manipulating them into thinking she has emotions for them or feelings for them. And the landscaper got this treatment too. And I know someone pointed this out once, and Terri tried to say that it wasn't true, but these text messages were submitted to the judge to see, but they did it in a way where it's not public record, but it's still in the record that these were submitted to the judge. So the judge has seen more texts to a different man that Terri was also sexting and also manipulating. And who knows what else are in those text messages that the judge saw. But it was all relevant to show that,
yes,
it's more than just the sexting fact. It is the bigger picture of, look at where we're sitting right now. There's a child missing, and this is what we have to show you. And just a little minor thing we can show you. Not they couldn't even really show that much because they didn't want Terri's attorneys to be able to get it.
Right. And I mean, I don't know why this popped into my head either as you were talking, but I have to go back to what you said about Terri saying that they were sexually active during this period of time. I legitimately in my head was pretending to be Terri, or, you know, kind of like trying to come on to Kaine. Could you see that kind of response? Like, ooh, like what? What are you doing?
No,
like,
exactly. I cannot see him responding that way at all.
Like, my son's gone and you want to do this? Like, are you friggin' serious right now? Like,
how out
could
of
you
touch are
imagine
you?
the response?
Yeah. How out of touch are you? You can't even tell me where you went that day. You can't even tell me if you parted at the dang main staircase or not.
Yeah, you change your time, you know. Oh, I don't know why that just like really pissed me off.
Yeah. That's just the type of person Terri is.
Yeah. It's just heart-wrenching what he went through and all that he lost in such a short period of time. Because he loved James. He loved James like his own son. And
I
James
believed he loved
him. They were
he loved
so
his whole
close.
family. He loved Terri.
Yes.
I believe that this was a big blow, and that's why he didn't just pack up his stuff and kick her out. Or, you know, he could had plenty of power over Terri to be able to do that, but guess what? He was not doing that.
Yeah.
Because he loved her. And this whole thing just ripped the rug right out from underneath his feet.
Yeah, and I mean, he had plenty of money to just up and move and do and go on his own or have her leave or whatever too. It wasn't like he had to depend on her for anything. He had money for childcare or whatever else he needed. He was making $14,000 a month. That's a lot of money, especially
Yeah.
back
Yeah, right?
then. Okay, let's move forward. We'll stop venting.
When you asked her what had happened that morning, did she describe the circuitous route driving around with the daughter in the car to help her earache?
Yes, she did. She talked about the retailers she stopped at. I want to say there was a gym stop. Again, I don't recall. It's been a while. But she did outline that. She outlined a few of the country roads that they were driving on. She wasn't overly specific about which ones. There was a few she talked about, but after that, it was just driving around. But yeah, I was familiar with that.
Yeah, and he doesn't really go into detail here about the baby's earache, whether she had an earache or not. When Desiree has said that the baby had already taken her antibiotics and was feeling way better weeks prior to this event, even though she takes the baby to the doctor the day before Kyron comes up missing, and the doctor tells her to get Tylenol. And it almost, we have other things that have came out before that she actually went to the doctor's office to ask the doctor if they could give something to Kyron to calm him down. But just not going into detail much about her earache in this, because I felt like this was it wasn't a good question on Nancy Grace's thing, but because he mentions the fact, or because it's mentioned the baby's earache, I thought maybe he would give a little bit more detail, and I kind of got excited. But then when he didn't, I was kind of let down a little bit, because it would have been nice to just be verified from Kaine himself whether or not the baby actually had an earache at the time.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
I mean, I know he said at one point that he has never had to drive the baby around, to get her to go to sleep. And we've read that before, but yeah, that was the only question that she asked him, where the answer, I was just a little bit disappointed in the answer, I guess.
Tell me about being the target of an investigation yourself while your son is missing. What was that like?
The only way I can describe it is it was something that that I needed to do. I knew I didn't have any involvement. I knew that really at that point it wasn't about me. Is really all I can say. Is about him, and I did everything I was asked to do as fast and quickly and urgently as possible to clear myself in the investigation, because I wanted them to be focused on who did it. So it was. I don't know. I set aside, there was not really a lot of emotions from me on that front, other than they indicated the process, and my job was to clear the process. And that's absolutely what I wanted to do. And again, as urgently as possible, the focus was on him, finding him as quickly as possible. It really didn't have to do with me as far as how I felt about what was happening. It was just what I needed to do as his parent to help him get recovered as early as possible. So it was basically my mission to do every and anything asked to clear that process and continue to move forward. So it was a lot less about emotion at that point. I know I described the first couple, like 24 to 48 hours, just being kind of unresponsive unless I was being interviewed with investigators, crying and all that stuff. And as we started to get further into the process, I kind of had to set that aside and become more focused on what needed to be done, the tasks that needed to be done, and not being emotional about how I felt at that particular point in time. I missed him. I was frantic, but at the same time, I needed them to focus on who actually did this. So it was about clearing. It was 100% just about clearing everything that I needed to clear so we could stay focused on him.
Yeah, and that's pretty much, what we went over earlier. You clear yourself so law enforcement can move on. Yeah, we're just going to keep moving along through these clips. And this one's just going to talk about, the belief that Kaine has that his son is alive.
There in your home, and you think about
the idea of Kyron being found? When you envision the idea of him being found, what do you see?
It's just exciting. It's a piece of our lives that have been missing for the past 5 years. Just having him come home and kind of do the family thing for the first time in a long time.
I think other parents would look at this and go, how is he excited? How does he still have hope? We're at the wall of hope. Where is the source of that confidence that you will be reunited with your son?
Well, I think that's well stated. I would call it a belief. Because to me, hope is passive. Hope is just, gosh, I don't know what's going to happen. I sure hope it turns out well, as opposed to, I believe he's alive. It's a much different statement. And if you think about how much time elapsed where something could have possibly happened, in other words, how far could he have gotten with that one particular individual, it's not very far. And we've searched a lot of those areas. So if he's not in those areas, then where is he? And then the next question that immediately comes to mind is then who else was involved and who is he with? And I think I've said that to you many times since we've spoken about it's the same theory. It's never changed. It's who do we need to be looking for?
Is there something specific that leads you to believe he's still alive?
I think it has more to do with the searches.
Yeah.
So the searches, as they are looking for clues, they've found no clues. They found nothing. There's been, of all the searches conducted to date that I know of, both private and by the sheriff's office or the search and rescue teams, there's been no piece of evidence forensically linked to our case. So they found nothing. So he's not around here. So the question is, where is he?
Yet Kaine says there's been no contact between Terri and their daughter.
What does that tell you?
It tells me everything I need to know. She's told us about the failed polygraphs. And when you fail 2 or 3 polygraphs, the percentages are really high. And when the questions are around your involvement with, taking him from the school that day, I think we know, we all do.
Kaine says she never asks about her mom, and while there have been reports about Terri trying to change her name and find work down in the Roseburg area where she's living, Kaine simply doesn't care what his ex-wife is doing. He's much more focused on his efforts still to find Kyron.
Kaine simply doesn't care what his ex-wife is doing. And there, he really does believe that the more they don't find anything during these searches, the more he believes that he's out there somewhere. And I get that when he speaks about that. And one of the major things that he actually says in this interview that got me, because I had never heard him say it, is mention the questions that she was asked on the polygraphs and the fact that she failed the polygraphs. She hasn't seen their daughter. He says that pretty much tells me everything. And she's failed polygraph tests. And when those questions have something to do with taking Kyron from the school and she's failing them, it pretty much tells them everything they need to know. And we know they're not municipal in court, but it is used as a tool. And it's a lot easier to pass a polygraph than it is to fail a polygraph.
Powerful, impactful words.
Yeah. Had you ever seen that interview?
Yes, that is one that I have watched before, and the reason that I know I've seen it. One part of it mentions her going to that dang Albertsons, that she said she went to Albertsons that day. And again, that's something
you were so afixiated on when we first met. Finally,
I'm like,
we're able to find out that she never went.
Yes, I'm like, why does it keep saying this? Why does it keep saying this? But then, like, all of a sudden, you just don't see it. But then this was 5 years in, and I'm like, this must mean that yes, she said she went to Albertsons that day. But if you look on the map, the Albertsons is way out of the way. So it would have like totally altered her day.
Yeah, we did. We found a clip that actually mentions that they got footage from that Albertsons and she was never seen on it, not in the parking lot or anything else. They do have her on footage in both of the Fred Meyer parking lots and going to the cleaner, but they did not ever find anything on her about this Albertsons. But I had seen the majority of that. But the one clip where it talked about the polygraph, if I saw it, it didn't click with my head or something, because I was like, wait a minute, what? So he literally talks about the failed questions, and it blew me away. I was like, yeah, this has definitely got to go into the live. So
yeah, it's not just, oh, did you guys leave together or whatever Terri said it was.
Right.
Or
in
was he in the
this,
truck? Sorry, that's what it was.
yeah. In this next clip, he really just talks about law enforcement information he's been given. And again, it's his belief that Kyron is out there and that he believes that Terri is responsible. We have Ashley in here, which is a new member in our group. Thank you for showing up. It says, I feel so bad for Kaine and Desiree. I hope answers are found. They deserve to bring Kyron home. And then she also says, how much time did she have between leaving the school and getting to the store where she was on camera and time stamped? It only takes about, well, me and Kaylee had timed it about 9.5 minutes from the school to the Fred Meyers. I've also timed it on a busy day with traffic at about almost 11 minutes from the school to the first Fred Meyers. And then from the first Fred Meyers to the second Fred Meyers again is almost anywhere from 8 to 11 minutes, depending on Highway 26 traffic there in Beaverton, because it can get like really, really hectic there. But thank you for being here, Ashley. It's great to see you. Yeah, let's add this one to the stage.
You know, I know through the filings, people have asked me, we filed that, that there were horrific actions that day that Kyron may have been witness to. Yeah, lay out the scenarios of everything that could have happened to him that day. And every scenario that has him alive still today. Look at any of those scenarios and have your child witness another child have to go through that right in front of their face. It's horrific. I don't care how you describe it. So yeah, I think he's alive. I think it was an awful day. I sure hope that Kiara didn't witness what happened that day, but I'm pretty confident that she was there based on what we know. And that's a horrific thing for a child to have to witness. For now, until we have information that gives us a direct path to where he's at, putting her behind bars doesn't necessarily help. If she's communicating with anybody or she reaches out to anybody that helps give us the direct path, then that's, obviously what we're waiting for.
Leah, I've watched this video before, and when he said that, I went, duh. Like, arresting her right away, where's that gonna get them, right? Because if you let her be out there running around doing what she's doing, seeing who she's communicating with, watch where she's going and everything else, wouldn't that help the investigation more? This blew my mind.
No,
so
you're
I
right.
was just, right?
You're exactly right, because I have been, like I said earlier, I've had the privilege to read warrants and subpoenas and stuff like that. And quite literally, the police have to lay it out and say, this is why we want to monitor, we want to surveillance or something. They say, this is why, and it's what they say is, they don't say, we believe Terri Horman is communicating with other people. What they say is, we know based on past investigations that the people that potential suspects are communicating with could provide very valuable information to the investigation. So they literally use the words pray. I pray that you will approve the search warrant to XYZ, look at all of the data on this person's phone from this date to this date. And that could be like after Terri had silenced. You know what I mean?
She even says in one of her emails before she gets off of the email or the phone call or whatever it was, that she thought she was being followed and she needed to go.
Yeah. Exactly.
So, and then of course in the beginning of this, he has talked about it before, not just in this interview, that he is afraid that his daughter witnessed some unimaginable horror, that happened that day. She was only 18, 19 months old. And people always say something like, I hope she can remember something someday. I hope she never remembers anything from that day.
Yeah.
Lord help her that she never has to remember anything if there was some kind of unimaginable horror. And I hope that if she did and she doesn't remember, that doesn't cause her any disturbances mentally that she may have to deal with later down the road. You know what I mean? So how scary to even think that she may have witnessed anything that day. And it's even written in the book, The Boy Missing, that day that the baby did not want to go to Terri. She did not want her. She didn't want nothing to do with her. She only wanted Desiree and Kaine and other people in the house. And I believe it even says like she acted like she was afraid of her mom. So
Yeah. I mean, and what depending on what she could have witnessed, babies aren't dumb. I'm sure a lot of our viewers are familiar with the Chris Watts case, and if so or if not, one of his daughter's last words were like she watched him do it to his sister, or to her sister, excuse me, and she asked him, "Are you going to do it to me?" And she fully knew, and she was just a little like 3-year-old kid. So they might not be able to put it into words, but they understand violence.
yeah. And, you know, Sherry here, she is talking about at this time, don't you think making a deal with her after she knows she will be serving time for murder, for hire, etc., may get her to talk. My personal opinion, Sherry, is that she will never talk. I don't believe that Terri will ever talk. When it comes to law enforcement or being in a courtroom or anything else, I really don't. I just really don't think. Ashley says she's currently reading the book and she hopes that the baby doesn't remember. Yeah, and the book is a great place to start. Ashley, I told you that earlier in the group. When you're trying to get to know the Kyron Horman case, I really do feel like that's a great, great start.
But the thing is when an arrest occurs, the clock starts ticking. Then the legal process has to start. And if they don't have a tight enough legal case, which I'm very confident that they will and that they do, but when they're ready, they'll make the arrest. And until then, I fully support their actions up until that particular point, and I will continue to support it moving forward. But once that happens, the clock ticks. And if they don't have a solid case, and we go into court and she walks from the case, that's going to be an awful day.
Yeah, you got one chance. One chance to put her away, and one chance only. I believe they made the right decision.
So I want to make sure they have everything. It needs to be airtight. We need to go in, and justice needs to be served. Well, it's just a scenario that I don't put through my head. So I'm not asking them to grant her immunity on anything. I'm asking her to come forward with the information and do what's right, like we've done so many times. And that's not going to do any good. Me standing here today saying that is not going to make anything change. So regardless of what the investigators do and regardless of what the prosecutors do, I don't think it's going to make a difference. So I'm not going to ask them to do anything that they should or shouldn't do. It's up to them to decide, and they're going to do what's right. They're seeking justice for our son, and I expect them to continue that course, and I support them in it.
I love the fact that they have so much faith in Multnomah County Sheriff's Office. I love it. Him and Desiree both are so confident in them and what they're doing and what they're going to keep doing as the years and years and years move forward. They have always still 100% been behind them and believe that they are doing everything they can to find Kyron.
Mm-hmm. And he just said what you said as well, that again, he also doesn't think Terri will ever talk. He's just said it right there. I don't think that offering her a deal would do anything because it's not going to change anything. It's not going to get us any more information, and I'm just going to leave it up to the investigators to decide what's the right move. I don't believe Terri will ever talk either. I think her pride is in the way. I think she got as close as she would, and then ever since Desiree gave her interview in May, Terry's been pretty quiet ever since then.
Yeah, I mean, I think that she had to become completely and totally manic to even get on the Dr. Phil show or People magazine. I mean, 2015 and 2016 were bad years for Terri, and it shows with all of the decisions she was making, from stealing the car and stealing the gun to holding a knife to her boyfriend's throat to going on Dr. Phil and pissing her pants to going on People magazine and lying her ass off, you know?
Yep.
Horrible. And then afterwards, of course, completely terrified, because then you've got the grand jury sending law enforcement back over to Sauvie Island in 2017, which was only 7 years ago, and Sauvie Island is a big deal for her. She doesn't like it when people talk about Sauvie Island, and I keep wondering what's up with that. Why?
Number of different scenarios. I don't know which one. I don't know what to believe. I believe that obviously something happened that day. I believe other people could be involved. She could have done it on her own, but there's so many different scenarios. I just don't know. I need to see more information that would lead me to believe one way or the other. But do I hope she still had an accomplice? Absolutely, I do. But like I said, looking back, there's still a bunch of things I feel that we don't know. We're dealing with someone who, again, in my opinion, I'm not a professional, but in my opinion, through my readings and research, I believe from a psychological standpoint, is a master at deception, misdirection, and she's bringing it forward in spades, and we're finding out about it left and right as we go through this process. And again, how could I not have known about it? She's really good at what she does. The alcohol part was hidden until other people brought information forward, and even then it was still hard to put the pieces together until there was a couple more pieces provided that put it in focus. Some of these other things are the same way. She's a master of deception and misdirection. All the conversations, again, in my opinion, she was having with people was the misdirection part. Other things that she was doing, again, in our household were things to provide misdirection so I wouldn't discover what was going on. Again, my opinion only. Investigators, this is nothing from the investigation. This is straight from me. Okay, so that's my opinion, is there's a lot of misdirection here through people, through activities, so that you can't see what she's actually doing. And as we step back and we get more pieces and we start to unravel, some of those things are coming to the surface. Again, I think the alcoholism is only the first step. I think
You even have a reporter. How could you not know? We are talking about the fact that the public has scrutinized him for 14 years, and right there during the interview, it's exactly what we're trying to show everybody. Like, a reporter, how could you not know? How was Kaine supposed to know that she was capable of taking his son, possibly hurting his son, or any of the other things that she was doing? And he's describing Terri to a T the way that we have described her several times. And he talks about all the different scenarios. We've talked about all the different scenarios because there's so many different scenarios that could be on here, or what she has done. Did she do it by herself? Did her and Dee Dee do it? Did she do it with somebody else and Dee Dee just knew about it? Or did her and Dee Dee and somebody else do it? Like, was he dropped off with somebody else, and is he gone being with somebody else? Or did they do some unimaginable horror to him and the baby witness? You know what I mean? There's so many layers. So many layers.
Yeah.
there's a lot more coming.
Sorry.
No, I disagreeing with you. There's a lot.
Yeah, and I mean, you see his face instantly get upset and self-defensive when this reporter was like, how could you know? When he probably wanted to say exactly what I said. And it would have been more like, well, how the fuck was I supposed to know? You know what I mean? Like, how would you know that? How would you know that this person that's made you believe that they were somebody completely different, this person that you've been in love with for 7 years, how could you even fathom that they would even do this to begin with? Like, what a question for that reporter to even ask. And it was just, yeah, you can see the scroll even a little bit now on this pause. Like, he's just so aggravated now. Like, how could you even ask me that?
I mean, he even touches on, like, the alcoholism. He's like, I had no idea. Even if Terri was in her worst postpartum depression, like the lowest of the lows, and she was drinking herself to sleep every single night, and Kaine knew it, I still, if I put myself in Kaine's shoes, would never imagine that would end up where we are today.
No,
right?
It would be more along the lines of a conversation like, listen, you are drinking so much. Like, it's just got to stop. Like, you've got a drinking problem. It's not like, hey, you got a drinking problem, you're eventually going to blah, blah, blah to one of my kids or something. You know what I mean?
No, I mean, if not, I hate the blame because, again, like, I feel like it could happen to any one of us. Like, I mean, stranger abductions are rare, right? And the thing is the people that have things happen to their kids or to their family members, you never expect it'll happen to you. That's like the the thing is, when something bad happens to you, you never expect it's going to be you, the one that experiences that. So I'm never going to throw judgment at a parent, especially when I can see the bigger picture that, hello, Kaine didn't cause Kyron's disappearance by not leaving Terri. Like, he had no way to know. I mean,
no way. If he would have had an inclination whatsoever, he found out that there was a murder for hire plot. What did he do? He left. He filed for divorce. He got a restraining order. She couldn't be near their daughter. If he would have had any inclination that she was capable of doing something like this, he would have picked up those kids, left the house, got a restraining order against her, divorced her then. If at anything, any red flag made him think that she was capable of hurting one of the children.
We have two objectives here. We have one is to find Kyron, and two is to protect both children still involved, and really all three children involved with this event that's happened. Okay, Kyron is the priority. We need to find him and bring him home. We need to keep the other children safe. So I'm keeping Kiara safe as best as I can, and once Kyron's found, I'll keep him safe too. I can only really comment up until we left the house, but her mom was there most of the time. So they were there trying to help as much as possible. So after that, I can't comment. Obviously, they're helping her, and I don't see any active push from them or family down in Roseburg to help with the search. I don't know. I haven't been to Roseburg since this went down, so if there are a bunch of flyers posted around and they're handing out T-shirts and bracelets down there, then maybe I'm wrong, but I sincerely don't believe that's the case. And they have every opportunity to do that. They have every opportunity to be vocal down there. They have every opportunity to help push the investigation from down there to spread the word about Kyron, and I don't believe that's happening. But again, I don't know.
Yeah, the way he spoke about Terry's parents not having any involvement, not passing flyers, not trying to be involved in the search for Kyron, his understanding, his belief was that they weren't, speaks volumes of the fact that her parents had to, of some way, shape, or form, felt like she was capable of or was guilty of doing something to harm Kyron. Why else wouldn't they be doing everything they could to be helping find Kyron?
Yeah.
The statement is huge. Huge.
Yep. Instead, they're just interested in protecting Terri.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is huge.
Which you have always spoke about, how they will always, always protect Terri. You know, her parents adopted them. They couldn't have kids or something. So, you know, they have done everything they can to protect her since she was young. And she's just the black sheep of the family over there. Hello, Susie girl. Nice to see you here. And it's okay that you're late, hun. And Ashley, you're talking about researching the case and listening to podcasts and everything else. We have a lot of research, on our lives. I have a lot of videos of the area where Kyron disappeared. Grizzly True Crime does an amazing job on her shows with Kyron, and so does True Crime Weekly with Stephanie Harlow and Derek. I can't remember his last
Derek
name.
L. Something L. Levere.
Yeah.
Something.
So, yeah, you're starting with the book, which is the best place to start, and here, and then Grizzly True Crime and True Crime Weekly are the three best that I've ever seen. I believe that we have been able to prove with facts and with evidence, not evidence, but with proof of what we say. We've been able to debunk a lot of stuff also, which we thrive off of doing because there is so much misinformation in Kyron's case. And it was one of the things we were just really dedicated to doing, was just, let's find out what the facts are and let's just start getting rid of the misinformation and telling people about it so that people know what to believe. It was kind of like our mission. Don't believe anything you find from Blink on Crime. She's just a blogger and she does nothing but start rumors. Just a FYI.
You'll come across her name for sure.
Yes, exactly. When you search her, you will come up with her name. And this is more from the interview, but it's just a totally different kind of clip because he actually talks about the different kinds of discipline and the different kinds of just things that were giving him red flags when it came to disciplining the kids. And so I took some clips of what he had to say from the same interview and then just kind of put it all together in one clip.
Feel that he was in danger. No. There was many discussions and arguments around certain behavioral things, and in a lot of cases, me confronting her on stuff that I didn't feel was appropriate. Not dangerous things, but just things around reprimanding or punishment and things like that. And I actually, like I said, the last few months at least, if not more than that, was standing up for him in some of the circumstances because it really was unnecessary. Even with her own son. I mean, that's.
He says it right there. I spent the last few months standing up for him. So there was some kind of hatred for Kyron there that was being seen. We've heard Desiree talk about it in the emails that Terri wrote to the other stepmother of Desiree's other son, Quinn, but he is saying he was sticking up for Kyron for months prior to his disappearance. I thought that was huge.
It's one thing that we call out in the court paperwork as well that I think everyone needs to understand is this process of removing children from our home started before Kyron went missing. She had her son taken out of our home in February. And I know that there are claims that that was due to me, and I have people that will get up on the stand and testify that that was not the case, and they actually had conversations with her on those days when she made the decision for him to leave. So we had children leaving our house well before Kyron did, and James was the first one. And unfortunately, there's not a lot I can do about that, but if I could step in right now and do something with regards to him, I would in a heartbeat. Again, it was disciplining when it's not appropriate, doing certain things that I didn't feel were appropriate at the time, especially for a child her age. And that's the hard part. We've got 3 kids that are separated by a number of years, and each one of them have to be disciplined differently. You have different expectations because of their ages. You discipline them differently. They're not the same. They're all different. And to try to go through and do some of the things that she did, I just didn't feel that they were appropriate. Were they harmful or life-threatening? Absolutely not. But were they excessive? I believe that they were.
Excessive punishments, excessive discipline. 3 different kids, 3 different ages, should have been, like he said, different kinds of, discipline going on there, and she was just taking stuff to the extreme. He's talked before about the color code system. We've talked about it before, where she was wanting a certain color every single day from the school just to know how Kyron was doing in school. And if he brought home a bad color, that would just mean like he didn't do good at school that day. They would fight, her and Kaine, about the disciplinary actions. She was wanting him to be disciplined constantly for that, and Kaine didn't feel like that it was appropriate to discipline him all the time. So they were arguing and fighting about that. I think that that has a lot to do with what he says right here about having to stick up for Kyron, months prior to this. And Ashley says right here, was there actually a color code system at the school? Yes, there was. Was that ever confirmed? Yes, it was. Kaine actually talks about it. And then your other statement here, do you as a group go and do things for Kyron like fundraisers or group searches? I have never been involved in a search. I would have loved to back in the beginning. I did try to go volunteer my time, but they turned me away because they had way too many volunteers delivering food and all kinds of stuff. They just had way too many. But we don't do fundraisers. I leave that completely up to Kaine and Desiree. Desiree does car washes and does several other things throughout the year to fundraise for money. And Kaine has Kyron's why am I forgetting the name of that? The Kaine Horman Foundation, where you can donate money to, and they have fundraisers and stuff. But we did just do, on June 4th of this year, we did a flyer thing and just passed out a lot of flyers and hung them up in the area where he came up missing. It's kind of something law enforcement has asked the public to do, is to hang flyers. The detective thinks that it's a great idea to have them locally for when and if they do put the handcuffs on somebody, that the community in Multnomah County is there to support whatever decisions are made when handcuffs go on anybody. So that's why we chose to do it up around the school and everywhere else. And we actually got a chance to meet Desiree. Kaylia has met Kaine before, so we are quite involved. It was a new thing for us to throw an event, but I know in our future we will probably keep trying to do things like that.
Yeah, I agree. That was awesome. We should definitely try again. Maybe it's a little late for his birthday, but we should do some more events throughout the year next year and for his 15th anniversary.
And I'm hoping that if Salmon Run doesn't come early, I'll do another all day live for his birthday like I did for his 14-year missing date too. I would
Yeah.
really like to do that again. I had, well, however much fun I guess that you can say you had. A lot of people came in and out. We talked about the in and outs of Kyron's case all day long. I can't even remember how many hours I was there. I
That
know it
was
was
awesome.
8 to 10 hours, but I'm pretty dedicated. Kaylee is really dedicated. Our admins are Heidi and Susie. We're really dedicated to just bringing awareness for Kyron. We cannot let the community forget that Kyron is missing, because once that happens, which I don't even think that the community there and the people that lived in that area could ever forget Kyron, but it goes much bigger than that. The support needs to be there for Multnomah County and the DA's office and the prosecutors when something goes down. So bringing awareness to him, talking about him, it's just something we love to do. We have done other children, but Kyron Horman's like what we've always done.
Mm-hmm.
So she's like, I'll turn it into your all day live. And Connie was there for my all day live, and so was AV. Thank you so much. That would be great. Yeah, I loved the all day live. It came out more amazing than I thought. I was a little bit nervous, but I've actually got enough information in the Kyron Horman case that I could go that long. And I swear to you, I could have gone a whole nother 24 hours and still
Yeah.
not put out all the information that we have in Kyron's case.
Yep.
It's crazy.
That's so true, though.
Here's a clip from the Oprah Winfrey show where they talk about Terri changing her story.
I'm suspicious of her.
First polygraph results came back. She was very vocal with everyone in the entire house about how it went, how that she failed. And then the actions after that, and the discussions that we had trying to understand what happened that day, she would change her story daily, if not more than that. I mean, every time you talk to her, it was a little bit different about, well, here's what happened that day. And it, you know, you kind of look at her going, you know, we have a major crisis here and you don't even have a story that's believable at this point.
It just pisses me off that she hasn't been arrested. I swear, sometimes we just do these lives, and by the time we're done, I'm just so aggravated because you go over all this information. You know Kaine and Desiree are privy to information. She's changed her story multiple times. She even changed her story sometimes multiple times a day. Screams guilt, screams red flags. You know, wow, like arrest her already.
Seriously, I know exactly what you mean. I feel the same way at the end of these lives. Like, it just feels like, come on, so obvious. But the justice system works the way it works, and we just have to trust that it'll all come together the way it's supposed to when it's meant to.
I'm one of those people, you know me, like I always like everything happens for a reason. And in this, I still just keep asking myself, but yeah, what's that reason? She's like living her life 14 years later, whatever, like it's time to give Kyron justice. It's time to give his family justice. It's, you know, it's because it's just so heart-wrenching, like doing this on Kaine. It's an emotional thing because we've really never really gone over like all of like Kaine interviews, Kaine things. And you know me, you're like big whoop whoop Desiree fan, and I'm like whoop whoop Kaine fan. So together, it's amazing when we're talking about these parents. And it's not that I'm not a Desiree fan, but I'm always sticking up for Kaine. I
Yeah.
cannot not stick up for him because he has been attacked so much, and it just upsets me so much that people actually think that this father would continue being with someone that's capable of hurting Kyron. And so, yeah, this is kind of an emotional thing for me today, and it pisses me off. It aggravates me to no end to see him hurt so much, to hear everything he has to say, and at the end of the day, she's still walking free.
I know, right? Exactly.
I mean, and I'm not a parent. Can imagine how upset they are. Imagine how frustrated they are, how much they cry about it. Like, ugh, it's just so disheartening.
Truly.
This is a shorter clip. I named it Terri Did It because he's just so adamant about Terri's guilt.
I just want to jump in. We're looking at pictures of Terri with the red hair and your son. Do you believe that Terri Horman, your estranged wife, and we're going to talk about your divorce proceedings in a moment, is responsible for your son's disappearance? He disappeared on her watch, so to speak.
Yep, I do. I do believe that she's involved with his disappearance.
So not just responsible, but involved. Not like, because that Jane lady follows up and says she was the last one to see him or whatever, or he did disappear on her watch. And he doesn't say, yeah, she's responsible. No, he says, yep, I believe she's involved, meaning she planned this and executed this. It's not just a responsibility that fell on her because he was with her that morning. No, he believes she did something.
Yes, and this news clip is the most telling out of anything, out of any clip, out of anything. He has to say, Kyron Horman's father says, small chance of wife being innocent. The father of a missing Oregon second grader, the father of a missing Oregon second grader, Kyron Horman, said there is little doubt that his estranged wife had something to do with his son's disappearance. And his exact words are, I think the percentages are so small that I have no optimism in that regard. No. Kaine Horman said when asked if there were any chances his wife Terri was innocent. So he is saying right here, I have no optimism in that regard. No. When he was asked if his wife, if there was any chance that she was innocent. No. I have no optimism in that regard. Like, that's a huge statement. Like,
yes, it is.
I know for a matter of fact that she is involved and she did this, is what this says to me. I have no optimism. Little to nothing, none.
And we hear Kaine. He's remained optimistic that Kyron's alive this entire time. So optimism isn't something that isn't, he holds on to it, obviously. But he had doubts with Terri from the very get-go.
And you know what I just realized? I took down that Nancy Grace before playing the last clip where it talked about him
his message to Kyron?
Alive. Yes. Do you have that red clip that was inside of our Facebook? I posted it up. Could you find that real quick and just read it so I don't have to find the interview? Because I really wanted to go over what he had to say about. I could look it up if you can't find it. Let me know.
Is it in the missing group or the regular group?
No, it's in our regular Kyron Horman group, and it is in red and in white is written, and it's his statement to Kyron from the Nancy Grace show. And I actually made a post about it because he says, like, if you're alive out there, Kyron. And it's the first time I've ever heard him use those words. If you're alive.
Let me see. I'm scrolling through your stuff.
I think the live was only like 12 days ago, and I think I posted it 1 or 2 days after. So, and there hasn't been like too much activity in there recently. So she should be able, it's going to be great big red. So just keep scrolling until you see great big red, like meme or something.
Let me scroll.
Late last night, Kyron's father, Kaine, released a statement asking Terri to help ensure Kyron's safe return and pleaded with her to cooperate with police, saying, "It is our understanding and continues to be such that she
I
has
think you
not been
underestimate
cooperating." Terri
how
was the
much is
last known
posted in the
person to
group.
see Kyron Horman alive. She claims she left.
I think I underestimate, you said?
Okay, here we go. I found it. Just took
Okay.
me a little bit more scrolls than okay. His statement says, Kyron, if you're still out there, we're still looking for you. So I will always lead with that. No one's given up. We are still looking. We haven't given up. We love you. We miss you. We are still active. The investigation is still active. We're still looking to everyone out there. That was
Is
his
that the
statement.
end?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're still alive, I just was so blown away. And I don't think that that's all the statement either, because he literally says, like, if you're still alive, Kyron, we're still looking, like towards the end of it or something. But yeah, I just found that just so telling, because he's never said if, and he's never mentioned even alive like that. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
true.
It's always been like, I believe he's alive. I believe he's alive. Over and over and over in every interview that you'll ever see, he says that. Yeah, let me try to backtrack this a little bit. Oh, perfect. And then play this, or we can go over to the comments. Ashley, somewhere over in Vegas, Connie says they really need to leave the father alone. Yes, they do. I stick up for him all the time. It becomes aggravating to me, and it takes everything I have in me not to block people. Because I'm horrible if you talk shit about his parents. I'm so horrible. I just want to, like, okay, you're blocked, bloop. But I try to be like so much more professional about it and just try to explain the situation a little bit more, because I don't think everybody knows the situation as well as we do. And I have to keep that in mind when I'm like wanting to block. Sherry says keeping the search for Kyron as an active and the focus in seeking justice is appreciated. Thank you. And I think that that's just what everybody needs to do. It literally, Kaine says in one of his interviews, it takes one share, and that one share could find that one tip that leads to the break that they need, and boom, it's over. The case is, and that's what we need, is for everyone, not just us, always sharing Kyron. Ashley says, I think it's a shame that people attack Kaine for denying a search of his home. I actually have that clip from the Dr. Phil. It was not a search set up by police or anything. It was a private search. Yes, and the person that was going to do that private search didn't even have a license for his dogs or nothing. In the private search, they find something worth being able to use, and it ends up going to court. And, Terri Horman's lawyers like this great, and they're just going to throw it right out. Like, this person doesn't even have a license. This person is a private searcher. This isn't even by law enforcement. And just those things right there alone could get it thrown out of court.
Yeah, you think they'd allow some uncertified dog? It doesn't matter if they were right or wrong. They still don't have certification to prove that they even have the qualifications to do so.
Right. Ashley also says, I don't understand how Dee Dee and Terri can get away with not working with the police to help. They are most definitely hiding something. The only time I have ever heard of Dee Dee helping police was when she gave over emails to police. And she actually, now that we know from Desiree's last interview with Doug Bishop, that she led police to where the burner phones were tossed, and the burner phones were found, and they were able to get evidence, pictures and text, I believe, that proved that there was some kind of guilt on Dee Dee and Terry's part in the disappearance of Kyron, which just blows my mind, because you would think on just that alone. But Desiree says that it's circumstantial evidence, and they're still just looking for that one, that one piece. Sherry says, Terri was very active to find a way to harm Kaine. She was not nice nor loving towards Kyron previous to his disappearance. Yeah, no. And there's a lot of talk about all of that. There's emails and what Kaine had just said. Ashley says, God forbid that they are Terri supporters and try to point something or anything can happen. And there are Terri supporters out there. Run like the wind. If you hear any kind of Facebook group, something, and Kyron something tips. I'm just, new, old, and ignored tips is all I'm going to throw out there. Don't go there. Just don't go there. It's a bunch of misinformation.
Watch our most recent lives for more information.
Oh yeah, watch our very last live. You'll hear about that misinformation. Susie, I believe Kaine feels a lot of guilt and pain. Yes, yeah, I do too.
Me too.
I do too. Yeah, gonna finish playing this.
Late last night, Kyron's father, Kaine, released a statement asking Terri to help ensure Kyron's safe return and pleaded with her to cooperate with police, saying, "It is our understanding and continues to be such that she has not been cooperating." Terri was the last known person to see Kyron Horman alive. She claims she left him at Skyline Elementary June 4th and reported him missing 7 hours later. The first week, investigators from 22 agencies tracked down 1,000 leads. By week 2, Terri Horman's photos appeared on flyers along with questions about her movements. Her truck was towed and tested for evidence. Her cell phone records were examined, and Terri took the second of 2 polygraph tests.
I think the investigators know a lot more than what they're saying.
In recent days, more information about Terri's past has surfaced. In 2005, she became a competitive bodybuilder. That same year, she pled guilty to a DUI charge. She married Kaine Horman in 2007, her third husband. 8 days ago, he filed for divorce and obtained a restraining order amid allegations that wife Terri tried to have him killed.
That says to me it's likely that he believed those allegations, that he wanted to distance himself from her. And that also says to me that the police are now closing in on her as the most likely suspect.
Yeah, they pretty much say it all there, don't they?
Yep.
I mean, what many more questions? She's been the focus of the investigation for 14 years. I mean, they had still over 90 suspects over a year after Kyron's disappearance. They did everything they can to look in other directions, but everything kept coming back to Terri.
Yep. People one by one. I mean, heck, something like, I don't know how many registered SOs in the area were cleared before Terri has been, or his own stepmom.
And they all passed their polygraph tests.
Yep.
Hello, Death by Chocolate. You can watch from the beginning or you can stay and then rewind. It's good to see you, hon. Thank you for always being here and being so supportive. We love you so much. She's been here supporting me and you and our channel since the very beginning, even before me and you even met, when I was just doing videos. Yeah, we appreciate you so much for being here.
It's so cool.
We appreciate everybody for being here. We know it's late, 7:30 my time, could be 9:30 somewhere else, 10:30, 11:30 somewhere else when you guys start watching this.
Right.
There may be a day where we'll be able to do lives earlier, but for right now, the 7:30 thing is what works for us. So we're just going to continue with that time, and you guys can always watch the replay. And I am so glad, Ashley, that I told you that they were Terri supporters. Yes, run as fast as you can. They don't put out anything misinformation. Matter of fact, they do disinformation. They will literally take information and change it to fit their own agenda to protect Terri. Just saying. It's horrible. It's 12:06 where Connie's at right now. Oh God, girl. Thank you so much for being here. We love you, Connie.
I hope I'm passed out by that time, my time.
Right? Let me keep playing this one.
The odds are is that he's still out there somewhere. So we can't stop what we're doing. We need to keep looking. I think it goes well beyond hope. It's whether or not you believe he's out there. So investigatively so far, there's no conclusive evidence that says that he is, and there's none that says that he isn't.
It's this information that keeps Kaine going.
In fact, in recent weeks, search crews have been combing the West Hills.
And they're all based on investigative leads. So they're not just going out and searching for the sake of searching. They have actual tips and information that's leading them to search the areas that they're looking into.
Along with searches, events like the 6th annual Kyron's Car Show also just as important.
So she's exactly 4 feet on the dot.
The community event promotes awareness for missing children and child safety.
So I'm going to need this one.
It also keeps Kyron's story alive. And hopefully 7 years later, this little boy can be reunited with his family.
It's just a matter of sharing. It could take one share on a Facebook. Someone recognizes that photo, sees him in their community, and this case is over.
Yeah, you know, he has the annual car shows and the Kyron Horman Foundation that he's done. This is what he's done, is starting to help other families for missing children. He does ID kits for children. If you're here, if you're listening, if you're on the replay, you got young children, go get your children's ID kits made, get them fingerprinted, clip a piece of hair, you know, for their DNA, do whatever you can to have that kind of information. Have you done that yet, Kalia, with the boys? Just
yes.
wondering.
Yep. I was able to. Yeah. Actually, it was it was something exciting that both my kids were very happy to participate in. They thought it was pretty cool, especially because they know the story of what happened to Kyron. They're involved. So
yeah.
That
I know they go out
definitely
and they pass out flyers and stuff. I love it when you post pictures, and they're of course always holding the picture above their face, so because we don't be putting our kids up on the internet. We have our personal Facebooks like in lockdown. So
yep.
I love that. I'm so glad to hear that. I need you to just have my kids' phone numbers so you can call them all and just like tell them how it is. I can't get them to do it.
Like I said,
I'm not paranoid. Just go do it.
I don't want to think I'm paranoid either, but I do know, I've heard it a million times. I never thought it would happen to me.
Yes.
And I don't want to find myself in that situation and not have at least a leg up. You know,
and we all have beautiful children. I have 6 beautiful grandbabies. You've got babies. We've got babies. Go get your kids' ID kit. Kalia, the other thing I thought was really crazy interesting in this, he says the exact same thing that Desiree does about the searches. Did you see the Skyline Boulevard?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
they're based on leads.
On legitimate leads and tips that come in.
Not just for the heck of it, right?
Yes. And from June 4th, when it's the anniversary date of Kyron's disappearance, to September 9th, which is when his birthday is, they get more tips and more leads in. It's one of the reasons why we did our flyer event. His face, I have gotten messages, like his face is everywhere still.
Good. I love it.
Me and my husband almost went for a drive before we decided to go crabbing this last weekend, to just go up there and check it out to see if we needed to, you know, put up some more. Yeah, I can't wait to go up though and see how many are actually still there, because it hasn't really rained except for that day that we hung them up, and the next day when it rained, it hasn't rained since except for today.
And it hasn't been like windy, so that's right. They could be there unless somebody took them down.
Isn't that exciting to hear? Like, they've been up over a month up there. It's awesome.
That is really awesome. And yeah, if I need to get out there and hang more with you, count me in. You know what else he said that caught my ear is that he said there's no evidence to say he is, and there's no evidence to say he isn't. Yep. Meaning, oh, I think he was sold into trafficking. There's no evidence for that. There's zero evidence for that. And Kaine just said it right here. So James, I don't know why James goes and spreads that misinformation when Kaine is saying right here, there's no evidence that he's out there and there's none that he's not.
I have been told by Kyron, and that's, why am I having a brain fart? Detective Tabor and I have talked. He's the lead investigator in Kyron's case, and he has told me they are not searching overseas. So they're not searching overseas. They do not believe that that is something. If a tip came in that led them to that, He's not saying that he wouldn't go check it out and that he wouldn't go try to find Kyron. But that's not. He says it's a local investigation. They're looking local. That's what they're doing.
Yep.
So
makes sense.
that's
That's
what
what
I've been
their
told.
evidence is
Yep.
pointing them.
Now, I know it's getting late. We've been here for 2.5 hours. I have the real nightmare clip that I really wanted to show. I did have some others, but I put them down. Let me see what these other, because I only had like 4 more small like videos, the parenting time recording, which let's just talk about that instead of playing it, because that's another thing, you know, that Kaine's been accused of taking Kyron from Desiree when, from my understanding, like I said earlier, they agreed when she came back from Canada that he was doing well, so let him stay, and they worked good together, co-parenting. They shared their time very well. Kaine would even allow Desiree to have Kyron when it wasn't her time to have Kyron. If she ever had a plan to like go do something or go somewhere, she was always more than welcome to come and pick Kyron up and take him to go do those things. They co-parented very well. It's just another rumor, you know, that was kind of spread. Another really short video that I do want to share, though, was the Dr. Phil, the one that you kind of mentioned earlier, too. Let me find it. And it is a small clip, so let's play this one real quick.
I don't blame Kaine for Kyron's disappearance. I want to make that very clear. However, the things that I have a hard time with is the fact that I feel like things were happening in the year prior to Kyron going missing that I was bringing attention to. And I don't know if you were busy with your life or what was going on, but it was just ignored. And I feel like in that, we failed Kyron. We didn't protect him.
That's interesting. A lot of the dialogue was more between you and Terri than you and I. She made deliberate attempts to put herself in the middle of the communication. So your emails, I never saw your emails. Her and I never spoke about them.
Okay,
I didn't even know about it. In hindsight, in all the discussions I have with other people, most normal people aren't investigating their spouse on a day-to-day basis.
Of course. Why would you not?
I have an open invitation with law enforcement and the search and rescue teams, the certified search and rescue teams, to search my property any day, anytime. When I was called, I said no to the private search, but I immediately said, and I will continue to say right now, anytime the sheriff's office and the search and rescue teams want to come with their dogs. It's already, my property, I'll qualify with, my property's been searched more than the school has probably. And my invitation is open, always open.
I'm glad for you to say you're willing to have that searched anytime. And you're not saying that you want it searched because you think he did something wrong. You're just saying there could be evidence there. I want to be very clear.
I believe it would have been a great opportunity for Terri. She wouldn't have been seen by anybody.
Have you ever heard that before at the end of that clip, Kalia?
That she thought it would have been a good opportunity for Terri.
Yes.
Yeah, I have, and I've also thought the same thing.
Yeah. I have never heard that at the end of the clip. This was a totally different Dr. Phil clip that I ended up grabbing off of YouTube. It's not the same one that we have in our group, because in the one we have in our group, she doesn't say that at the end. It just like kind of ends after he talks about the thing. That blew me away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you guys were to see Kaine's property firsthand, you would feel the same way.
5 acres.
Yeah, I believe they did a good job. I do have faith in the search and rescue. But I don't blame Desiree for having that. Can we just be sure? You know what I mean? Like that just was where it comes from.
Use, different search dogs that are licensed and stuff.
But as you say, as you heard Kaine said, he even stops himself and says, anytime the searchers want to come with their dogs, with their certified search dogs, he backtracks and adds the word certified search dogs. And that's because Kaine has a standard that he's holding people to when they're going to get involved in his missing son's high profile case, not just any Joe Schmo. Yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing that's really telling in there is she says, we failed Kyron, not Kaine. You failed Kyron because of XYZ, Terri, cheating, all of this other stuff. We failed. And you went into that earlier. And yeah, I just think it's, you know, she starts that whole conversation off with, you know, I just want to make it perfectly clear that I don't think that Kaine had anything to do with
Yeah, with
you know,
his
Kyron's
disappearance.
disappearance. And she has said that multiple times in other interviews and stuff too. Let me see. I got one more here. I have to search now because oh, this is another really short clip.
Believe that there's some form of involvement. I don't know to what level. It could be directly involved and she's responsible and she acted alone that day, or someone else is involved either with her or even maybe potentially without her. In light of something not breaking, coming forward quickly, this is going to be a marathon, not a sprint. This could go on for 2, 3, 4 years potentially.
Now says he suspects there might be another person along with his wife connected to his son's disappearance. In an email interview with the Oregonian, Kaine said, quote, based upon briefings, he firmly believes that someone else is involved.
And I just thought that this clip was just really important because, you know, we hear Desiree all the time talking about her belief that Terri is involved. She's very vocal about Terri being involved. Kaine isn't so much. To a certain extent he is, but then he, you know, sometimes doesn't want to talk about Terri at all. Or excuse me, I'm sorry, I backtrack. I'm trying to say Desiree talks about Dee Dee a lot more than Kaine has talked about Dee Dee or other people being involved. And in this, it shows that he does believe that there are other people. I did another clip earlier that showed that too, because I think it's really important to show, you know, we have Dee Dee Spicer and Terri Horman here. Dee Dee Spicer took law enforcement to where Terri and her threw the burner phones. Why are you even using a burner phone? First red flag. Why are you throwing them in the woods? Second red flag. Why are you throwing them in the woods close by the house where Terri lives? Why are you using burner phones to talk, you know, it doesn't even make sense. Why are you going out in the backyard when you go and stay with your friend Terri, like Dee Dee did for 11 days, sexting, having a slumber party with one another, having a great time while there's a boy missing? Another red flag. There's just so many. And we've done a ton of lives on Dee Dee. She's been my number one suspect for a very, very, very long time. And I just really think it's important to just keep throwing out, like, he never does really say Dee Dee except for in the one time when they came out in the press conference talking about Dee Dee having information, needing to come forward, and basically feeling like she was giving Terri bad, what's the word I'm looking for? Bad advice. I mean, her involvement is there and it needs to be talked about more. And then this is the last clip, Kaylee. I think it's something like 10 to 14 minutes long. So we can just like run it down and go through it. And then you can go to sleep since you got to get up early. If you need to go, if you need to go now, you can. I'm just saying, if you're tired. But it is the last clip. Dee Dee has a deal with police. Yes, she has immunity. She can't be touched. Is that true? Yes, to an extent. I believe she has had immunity more than once, and I think one time she may have gotten in trouble, but I have no proof of that. But I truly believe the immunity thing, you have to go back and watch all of the stuff that we've done on Dee Dee. There's one that we did on Dee Dee, Gardener or Murderer, and that's one of the best shows I think we ever did on Dee Dee Spicer that really, really goes deep into her, where she was and what she was doing that day. That would be a good one for you to watch. I think it's crazy that she was accounted for at the same time Terri was, or unaccounted for, I think is what that's supposed to say. This is not just by chance. We actually found an old news clip, and I have found several since, that actually puts Dee Dee missing time up to almost 4 hours. And the book Boy Missing, it's not 90 minutes for her either, because the gym time is wrong. That Terri Horman says she was at the gym at 11:39. She actually didn't get there till 12:20 and was only there from 17 to 20 minutes. She didn't even work out. It's just she's running around all day the day that Kyron comes up missing because she's trying to make an alibi for herself. And yeah, unaccounted time, she says. So here's Real Life Nightmare. It was a episode that was just done 3 years ago. Besides some of the other interviews, this is one of the longest, most recent on Kyron, besides the News Nation. And yeah, it says a lot of stuff.
The three of them made their routine walk to the bus stop to greet Kyron and hear about his day.
The three of us start walking down. I know that she had mentioned she had forgot something or had to go grab something back at the house. So my daughter and I.
This is also the first interview Kaylia noticed where Kaine says that they were walking down to the bus stop, and Terri turned around to go back to the house because she had forgotten something. And it just blows me and Kaylia's mind, because it's like, what was so important that she had to go back to the house for that couldn't wait until after that bus came?
Walked down to the bus stop, and she took off back up and came back down to meet us kind of at the bottom. Bus goes by up and turns around, comes back down, came back down, bus stops, door opens, and the driver says, hey, you know what's going on, guys? And we're just waiting for Kyron. Oh, well, Kyron's not on the bus. Well, he should be on the bus. What's going on? And so she immediately said that she would call it to the school. And I can't remember exactly how it was mentioned, but just kind of parroted back that he hadn't been at school all day. It was like immediate panic at that point. I don't even know how else to describe it. I mean, everything just kind of went blank for like, I don't know how long. Probably 10, 15 seconds, just, I don't understand what's happening. Can you ask them if maybe he got on a different bus, or maybe he went home with one of the other kids somehow to pick up from school? And at that point, they just said, yeah, you know, we're pretty sure he didn't get on any bus.
And I said, what? What do you mean he's missing? He can't be missing.
We made a call to Desiree to let her know. That was one of the first calls that I made. I was in hysterics at that point, and pretty much your worst fear coming true. Just trying to explain to her, you know, we're not exactly sure what's happening right now, but apparently he wasn't at school. We don't know where he is. We're trying to figure that out, and basically like, you need to get up here.
The science fair was scheduled before classes that morning, and Kaine talked with Kyron before heading into the office.
Just tell him have a good day and just, you know, relax and enjoy, you know, sharing his project with the other kids. It's just him and I out in the front yard, just having a chat together, kiss on the forehead, really big hug, have a great day, Dad.
Exhausting those possibilities meant asking everyone questions, beginning with Kyron's family.
They made very clear pretty early on that, you know, until we can start to get better timelines and more information and start to rule people out based on statistics, you guys are suspects until further notice.
Terri Horman, Kyron's stepmother, was by all accounts the last known person to see Kyron that morning, and she too would be questioned by authorities.
They made very clear pretty early on that, you know, until we can start to get better timelines and more information and start to rule people out based on statistics, you guys are suspects until further notice.
Missing children's cases in particular, oftentimes a family comes out and speaks publicly, asking for the public's help. We didn't get that early on in this case. And I think a lot of us were asking, why aren't we hearing from the family? Why aren't we out here in front of the camera saying, hey, help us out, where's our kid?
I don't know that we were emotionally collected enough to be able to make them, honestly. The consensus, at least amongst the family, was until we clear this, we really don't have a lot of business speaking to the media because we honestly don't really know what's going on. I didn't have any mindset to be able to address the media. I don't think any of us did. We need to focus on him. We need to focus on clearing ourselves, clearing the process. So I think that then we could be more public advocates for him. But at the time, obviously, they don't know who's involved. They don't know if any of us can be cleared or not.
Investigators needed to drill down some specifics about Kyron's family, who was where and when. Kaine's alibi was solid. He'd been at work that day. And soon, police moved to Kyron's mom, Desiree, and her husband, Tony.
They asked me if I knew where Kyron was. They asked me if I was in Medford, my timeline for the day. I can tell you what I ate that afternoon. I can tell you everything that I did that day.
I've got an 18-month-old in one arm and bags, and we're trying to find a place to go where she can't get a locate on us. I need to protect myself and my daughter. We basically leave for what we affectionately call an undisclosed location, and we're gone.
He was sequestered. He was in a hotel, but he couldn't give us the location until we got there, and it had to be over the phone, not in text. He proceeded to explain how he found out what was going on, that he feared for his life and safety.
In the middle of a desperate search for his son, Kaine alleged in court documents that Terri was behind a murder-for-hire plot, and he was the target.
Not only is he missing a kid, but his marriage is falling apart, and he's finding out that there are allegations that she may have hired someone to have him killed, so he had a lot on his plate.
While the family appeared united at the press conference, behind the scenes, things were different.
You start to notice her lagging. She's sitting and focused on social media and responding to people posting negative things online and their opinions. The three of us are pacing and just going, and it doesn't matter. None of that matters.
We had a meeting with her in Kyron's room, asking her, pleading with her, do this polygraph, do whatever you have to do. She wouldn't commit to it.
That's, I think, when it starts to quickly start moving in the direction of, we don't understand what the problem is. If you're not involved, then you would do everything you possibly could to clear yourself. Right now, you're not. You're clearly not.
What does sequester mean, Kalia? Oh, Kalia's not here. She had to leave because she's got to get up and go to work at 4 a.m. in the morning. Yeah, I was trying to figure out what sequestered mean because he talks about, or Desiree mentions he was sequestered, but I mean, Kaine picked up the baby and left. He went to an undisclosed location. So, yeah, you couldn't text message him. You had to make a phone call because he felt like his life and the baby's life was in danger because the police had came forward and talked to him about this murder for hire plot. You have him talking about, one of the reasons why I wanted to play this video in particular is because Nancy Grace, and the interview we went over with Kaine earlier, she had so many questions about that morning. And I feel like in this interview just 3 years ago, he did a lot better job talking about that morning, what happened that morning, his feelings that morning, like just going into, Desiree was the first person that I called that day and everything else, so it's just really important to show Kaine, show his emotions, show how he feels, especially after an interview like Nancy Grace, where it's not too emotional. And there's so many people out there scrutinizing him for cheating on Desiree, for being with Terri, for not leaving Terri sooner, for not giving Kyron up to Desiree. And, the more and more of these shows that we do, the more and more we become more attached kind of to Kyron's family. And so that's why it's always so important to us to just get out here, talk about the family, what they're going through, what they have gone through for 14 years. I want to throw up a banner real quick for Kyron. Kyron came up missing on June 4th, 2010. And if you have any information about Kyron's whereabouts, please call the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office, and the tip line telephone number is 503-988-0560. There is no tip too small. They are still getting tips all of the time. Like Kaine has mentioned, like Desiree has mentioned, like law enforcement has mentioned, it only takes that one tip to come in and the whole case could be over. Kyron could be found and justice can be done for him, can be done for his parents and family. So many missing children out there. And I also want to take the time now to recognize Michael Monkey Vaughn. He came up missing July 27th of 2021. His 3rd year anniversary date was just this last Saturday. And if you have any information on Michael Vaughn and his abduction, please call the tip line at the Fruitland Police Department at 208-642-6006, or you can email findmichael@fruitland.org. Brandy, if you're listening, I just want you to know that we are praying and our hearts go out to you and Tyler and the rest of your family. Know that we are thinking about you. We're thinking about Michael, and we love you guys so much. Our hearts just go out to you and the family for just everything that you're going through. We'll never give up on trying to find Michael with you guys. If you ever need anything, you know where I'm at. Yeah, you guys can throw up some monkeys and blue hearts for Michael Monkey Vaughn. You can throw up some green and blue hearts and some froggies for Kyron. And we are pretty much done for the night. I know it's late for everybody. Thank you, Connie, for being here the whole time and being our moderator. You're so sweet. I love you so much. I'm so glad that I have met you and that you're here. Thank you, Avi, if you're still in the background. Thank you, Susie, for coming. Thank you, Ashley, for being here. We love having new members get involved over here on our YouTube chats. We have so much information over here, and it's been really nice having you in the chat tonight. Yes, Connie, justice for Kyron and his family, and justice for Michael. I'm just going to end this video with I'm going to end this live stream with a video. Thank you guys all for coming. We love you. I'm so sorry it was a month, but life gets crazy. Summers are crazy for us, but you can guarantee come fall, winter time, when it's cold and we ain't got nothing to do, we're going to be here. So have a great night, everybody. Good night, Connie. And you know, you guys are our friends and our family now, and we love you guys. Thank you so much for being here. God bless Kyron. God bless Michael. And I hope to see you guys again here real soon. Let me find it. Here we go. Thank you guys for being here. Good night.
He's a great kid.